Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dragon Riders Season 2, episode number 4. And
I'm sorry.
I didn't think about the intro.
Yay!
I was distracted because everyone was asking me for hair tips. So, hello everyone and welcome to Dragon Riders Season 2 Episode 4. It is good to be back. We've had a little bit of a break, but we are back now. We are, unfortunately, not joined by Dan today, who is unable to make it, but we will make it work. All that will mean is that Perry will have important things to do that aren't involved with the rest of the pod, and for some reason, Argent will be quiet today. For the most part. So, what do I usually do on my intro? I talk about things, right?
Patreon.
The other shows you got, your Patreon,
yeah.
Other shows.
Other shows, Patreon. It's been a while since I've had another show during Dragon Riders. There's a show on Mondays, guys. It's called the QT. We've had the first 2 episodes, and they have been really, really good. So if you're interested, those are up on the YouTube as we speak. Both episodes. Go check them out. Additionally, if you like the shows that we produce here, go check out the Patreon. You can become a patron, or you can pledge for as little as I think it's like $3 is the lowest one, which is cheaper than a Twitch sub. And actually, at the same time, more money goes to the channel. So it's better than a Twitch sub. And not least because... What's up, Twitch? I'm not going to say anything mean about you, I swear. Anyway... with the Patreon comes things like we do a community night, usually board games and stuff. Sometimes we check out systems that I want to do for shows, and we learn them, or we have a bit of a mess about with them. We did it with Microscope. We did it with City of Mist for the QT. So it does also give you an idea of what shows might be coming as well. There's another one. Some of the patrons know the secret project show that we're doing soon, the recorded one. So we tested that system out and learned it. So there's a couple of people who know, but as far as I know, they've been very quiet about it, happily lording it over the people who don't know. Past that, there's a Twitter. You can follow the Twitter if you like, and you'll get notified on when the show is live. Additionally, there is a Discord. Go join the Discord. You can get involved with all the community stuff, the kind of the board game nights and everything else. I do occasionally stream games on the Discord when I am bored, and we sit in there and we shout at each other. It's a lot of fun. Finally, if you are on the Discord, and it's something I haven't mentioned for a while, there is a role that you can ask for, which is Get Told, which basically is what I tag people with when the shows go live. So if you're in the Discord and you're like, I never know when the shows go live, you can... Sorry, I got distracted by Tash correcting my camera. You can ask, just at me in the Discord, and after the show I'll give you the role, and then you'll get basically that ping. Just purely because we do a couple of shows a week now, and I don't always like to bug everyone with an at everyone kind of crap. I think that's everything. Did I miss anything?
Did you say you get this rule set?
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Tash. Additionally, if you are a patron, very often when I do a show, I do a crap ton of prep and kind of building the whole setup, which means that at the end, I tend to put it on Patreon. So if you've watched Drifting, if you've watched Sunkissed, and also if you watch Dragon Riders, all of those kind of modules or systems or whatever are up and available on the Patreon, where you can download them and essentially just run it yourself if you want. Especially Dragon Riders, which is a completely made up system I made up myself for this show, and is very abstract for a system, I think. But a lot of fun. So yeah, that's another benefit of supporting the channel. And speaking on that, essentially everything made on the Patreon currently goes to paying the cost. So if you like the shows, if you want to see more, the more people who pledge on Patreon, again, as I said, as little as like $3, the more I can do. So the more shows I can do and the more things like this can be afforded. So, with that in mind, but it's been a little while since I've done a Dragon Rider, so I'm like, do we just go into the show? I should probably do a recap, right?
You usually do a recap.
Yeah. God, now I have to remember what happened last time.
You do.
So, last time, the main thing I remember is that okay, so I'm gonna need help from you guys as well. We had the investigation of the dragon bone tree, right?
Yep.
And Argent investigated that and got whisked away to parts unknown in his mind. Possibly in... Was it possibly, or was it like he knew where it was, right?
Knew vaguely where it was.
Yeah. In the direction of the deep roots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What he learned, because in the area they're in, the swamp at the in the south west of this area of Lis, there had been worrying signs of like kind of inky darkness spreading out through the water of the swamp. Some of the trees had started to grow and darken. Some of the creatures, the few that were still around, considering there are 4 dragons chilling in the swamp, had started to grow and to darken as well. Turns out that from what could be discerned, a not really evil, but kind of potent primal force is rising again in the swamp that had been essentially sealed somehow by the dragon bone tree, and that seal was starting to break apart. The magic was starting to dissipate and had been essentially warped in some way. What Argent essentially did was slow down the degradation and give you a bit more time before something called the Lurker reappears in the swamp. To give you an idea of what it was like when the Lurker was there, there was an expedition sent into the swamp with about 10,000 men, and only 5 came back. So... additionally, past that, there was a lot of talk about what to do. Perry had a conversation with the people at Lowhold, and they essentially, seeing as he is from Lowhold, they offered him the position of king or leader or general, or just pretty much they're hoping to stay independent from Cargilia, which appears to be trying to form some type of defensive pact, faction type thing, which of course Cassandra's a little bit worried about, probably more than the rest of them, but everyone is concerned for. And I believe like Perry was not interested in being in charge, but also wanted to help protect Lowhold and help keep them independent. So there's a bit of divided loyalty there, I think, for him, and I'm sure that won't come up ever again. So, going from there was a lot of talk about what exactly you wanted to do, because the options are... Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong here, everyone, because obviously it's your characters and what they want to do and what their thoughts are, but from what I remember, the the talk basically revolved around the idea of, you know, we can help Lowhold, but then we're going to be drawn into the political situation. We're essentially the second that you declare for a city or declare for a town, you are then involved in the political intrigue, and it means you'll have to commit yourself to fighting if you have to. You know, if someone sends an army to the town, you'll have to defeat that army. That means you'll have to kill the soldiers, kill people. Which, to a certain degree, is quite easy for Dragon Riders. Although, obviously, you know, there'll be some forms of anti-dragon combat, you know, that they'll be preparing for, but... Okay, question for kind of just all three of you as your Dragon Riders. How prepared are any of you for fighting people? Like, if it came to, and let's say that an army was sent to Lowhold and you as a pod decided to protect Lowhold, like, would you be prepared for a full-on pitched battle like that with other people?
I think Cassandra obviously has got some experience with family being in battle and in the army and stuff. So she probably thinks that she would be ready for that.
Okay.
I'll go with.
Rithera, I was going to
Yeah.
say, Rithera's got a bit of a survival of the fittest, but I don't think she'd be prepared for, like, the
Full on battle? No.
the aspect
I don't
of
think so.
war.
Like, yeah, she would do what she needs to do to survive, but the idea of, like, she's pretty passive in the fact that, like, she doesn't want to go hurting people if she doesn't need to, or like inserting herself in that way. But there is like a very large sense of protection, of protecting people that can't protect themselves, or protecting people that need protection in general.
Yeah, and
Standing up for what's right.
the people in the mountain have never been expansionist. Like,
Mhm.
even going back to the Empire and before the Empire, like, at most, there's always been space in the mountains because they're like, we can live up here, we know how to live up here, we survive, and there's always space, there's always, you know, a lot of area.
We only
And,
take from the land what we need. We don't, there's no excess.
I would say probably the most combative the mountain people have ever been is just essentially duels and you know, one-on-one combat, mostly, you know, like disagreements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not even like, I like your cave, I want your cave. It's like, oh yes, whatever. And I imagine that Ultra probably hasn't really been taught to you know,
It would be very, like, out of the realm of the peaceful atmosphere she grew up in. However, she's seen a lot of violence in the last bit.
she has.
And I think in some cases it might lean over to, like Rithera saying, survival mode, where she's not really clear on the right path at the moment of, like, what is the way to handle a lot of stuff. I think the path she wants is, like, obviously not have to kill anybody, but we're kind of in a different landscape now where people actively don't like dragon riders, and so survival might take precedence in instinct over logic and peacekeeping.
Yeah. There is also her namesake. The original Barn was a very combat, good, like, high combat ability, like, historical figure, I guess. So
Yeah, I feel like she would try to do what her ancestors did, which is just, like, used violence but didn't kill anybody.
well,
But then also seeing the Cassorian, you know, way also might kind of be ingrained in her a little bit, maybe just deep down.
yeah.
And seeing how a Cassorian sacrificed themselves for us also might have shifted her perspective a bit.
I was going to say, when you said she'd go with her ancestors, like, that does ultimately lead to the Cassorian tribes and the raiders and ravagers that they are. Sorry, I was like, well, there's a certain amount of violence in her ancestry right there.
Yeah, I think it just maybe, if she feels very threatened, it might be.
Yeah.
And she's not thinking clear. I think just kind of clear. Ultra's not also really thinking in a way that she may have if she was meditating daily.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's been a time. And I mean, Sagacia is so isolated from the rest of the continent, intentionally, you know, but it does mean that even when there was peace and the Dragon Riders, they had a certain, like, detachment from the rest of everything, which obviously is a bit of a culture shock for Ultra now being a Dragon Rider, and everyone's like, hey, come and get involved in our politics, please. Which, interestingly, leads us into the current situation, which is that, at the end of last episode, Ardor turned up in a bit of a panic, maybe, because Ultra had been pretty much taken prisoner by the place she had been investigating over to the west of the Steel Spine into the area looked over previously by Sentry's Roost, which I believe you got the information on Sentry's Roost, right? The whole island itself had pretty much been glassed and destroyed. So Ultra had been investigating over there, seeing what's happening over in that direction with Ardor, and had been kind of taken prisoner or held hostage by Skein Lag, a town of former mountain tribesfolk from Rithera's kind of, you know, area, neck of the woods up in the Steel Spine. Long time ago, they migrated down to the plains and formed a town and became a lot more sedentary. They still have connections with the mountain tribes, but I can't remember actually off the top of my head what the tribes are called. I believe I have it in my notes. Let's have a look here. That is Rithera, the Baron is what they're called. So the Baron people are the ones who inhabit the mountains, the Steel Spine. They live in the caves. They're very individualistic. Some of them, a long time ago, migrated down, and they have now... To give you a brief outline of what happened, before we jump in and let Ardor explain as best as she can to everyone involved. I believe in Ardor, don't get me wrong, but, you know, just for the people watching, just in case it comes out a little bit garbled. Essentially what happened is that when Ultra and Ardor got to Skein Lag, they started realizing that it's quite deserted. There's not many people left there currently. And when they spoke to the leaders, to basically the rest of the people who are still there, they're kind of confined to the town hall and very small surrounding area. The rest of the town is pretty much abandoned, and they're concerned about multiple things. You know, giant black dragon flying around killing everyone is a start, but also the current evolving political situation in the area. Now that Sentry's Roost is destroyed, similar things have been happening there that are happening around Harrowhold. Essentially, they asked for help from Ultra and Ardor, which Ultra was not willing to pledge to, because A, can't speak for the pod, and B, don't really want to commit into fighting wars and battles for people, given that you're not even sure what side of everything you want to fall on yet. That led to a little bit of a disagreement, and 50 to 100 people suddenly, you know, getting angry and being like, bring your friends here and we'll negotiate. And pretty much what happened was Ardor and Ultra were unwilling to slaughter a town if there was another option. So the Ardor was sent flying back to the swamp to gather everyone, come back and see what could be done. Hopefully it's not going to end in a massacre. So, with that in mind, let us rejoin as I think as Ardor returns and pretty much start off where we left off, which is Ardor flying down and basically being, you guys, Ultra's been kidnapped, and go from there.
Yep. So you see a very panicked Ardor flying in. And Ultra's been kidnapped. We have to go. I need everybody's help.
What do you mean? What kidnapped when? How?
We were out, and okay, Skein Lag group people thing invited us in and then told us we had to fight in their war or not and needed help, and then they held Ultra hostage, and it was either murder everybody or come back and get everybody else.
Right. How many are there? Do you think?
50 to 100. Somewhere in there.
Slightly different numbers, but
Well, people,
yes, right.
lots of people, but not tons of people, not like a city of people, not, we
Take a breath, Ardor. Okay.
need to save Ultra.
Yes, we'll have to scout and make sure we're not walking into a trap. Obviously,
It's already a trap. Ultra's already
I know,
captive.
but we don't want to all be captured by them, Ardor. That will not put us in a powerful position.
Well, they want our help. They want us to fight for them.
Obviously, we can't do that.
Oh no, that's what we said. We said no, we can't, and we won't.
Right, shall we... I suppose we'll have to go then. If we get ready and we'll go.
Now.
Rethera, do you have any thoughts on what?
I say prepare as fast as possible. If they have Ultra captive, and it's them as demanding we fight battles for them, I'm hoping that we can go in and negotiate, but I would prepare more for the latter. I don't know if they're sending Ardor back quite aggressively, quite quickly without Ultra. I don't know what kind of cooperation they're going to be.
And
going to be
frankly, if
giving.
they've already captured one of us, that's not putting us in a very negotiating mood.
No, it's a demand.
Okay. Ultra, are you with us on this?
Ultra's kidnapped.
Ultra's kidnapped.
Ultra's kidnapped.
Village.
I'm so sorry.
Did you
I need
mean
this Red
tourmaline?
Bull. I'm gonna help.
But she would be. Yes, she would. She'd appreciate
Normally,
getting
do you want to
rescued.
stay here? Ultra, are you with us? We're gonna come to
Ultra's like,
that.
hell yeah, I'm
Emotionally with us.
I'm over here.
I really want to rescue myself.
Oh, days. I'm just gonna have a sip of this.
Perry, are you with us?
Perry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tourmaline's sitting there, like nodding her head a lot, just kind of like.
Obviously, we help Ultra. But
Absolutely.
perhaps Perry and I should stay behind and watch the eggs.
And if we are captured, then that's probably a good idea.
Yes.
They said the pod. Do you think we can say that this is the pod?
Do they know how many? Did you say how many there are, Aldo?
I didn't. They can't understand me.
Well,
I don't remember if Ultra said how many there are. She just said pod. So,
and Ultra is under duress, so if she had accidentally said 4, who's to say?
can we go?
Yes, we'll go.
Okay. So.
Oh. I think
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I think Incenzia has some emotions and feelings and things.
Of course she does.
And
That is the wrong voice. What is my day?
Today's great. We're doing great. Incenzia had some helium.
There's like a pocket of helium in the swamp that just got.
Like helium fish, maybe?
Yeah.
It makes sense. I'm just sitting here like.
I'll put it in the law. Helium fish.
Oh, serious face. It's a very serious matter.
Is this a good idea?
Yes.
I mean, they already captured Ultra.
It sounds
Like
more like
Cassandra said.
strong arming than capture.
They could strong arm us.
I doubt that you would let that happen.
No, I wouldn't, but you know, we don't have to potentially let it happen.
Yes, we do. We have to get Ultra. There is no question about that. That's not a negotiable fact.
I'm just saying.
Do you want Ardor to go in there alone? Against how many people?
I mean, Ardor could handle it. If Ardor wanted to handle it.
Might be a fact, but also, do you want to put that responsibility on Ardor without our support?
Their Dragon Rider is their responsibility.
We're a pod. We're each other's responsibility. Do you not see us as a pod?
Obviously, we're a pod.
So that answers our question, does it not?
Just saying it could be solved already. Don't have to put ourselves at risk for it.
Well, we can go stealth it out and check it out. Use your speed to our advantage.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll grab my pack, which is probably pre-packed already at this point, knowing that.
I would say all the way through your time in the swamp, especially Rithera, but all of you have pretty much been prepared to uproot and move if needed. So you've never at any point, aside from maybe Perry definitely gives you the idea that he wants to settle here. But I think that's more a reaction to the current situation as opposed to him liking this area. What I will say is, as we go forward, Perry and Tourmaline are staying here and are essentially going to do two things. One is gather more information to the north, to the rest of this area, around Harrowhold, and just try and figure out what exactly is going on. Talk to a few people, maybe if it's safe, but mostly kind of, just do a little reconnaissance. But also head over the Steel Spine a little bit to check out the edge of the Deep Roots Forest, where he saw that where Argent saw that weird kind of creature in that giant tree. Just to see what the Deep Roots are like, really. It's somewhere where not many people go. And when they do, it's a reasonably perilous place, let's say. So, carrying on, we will essentially watch as 3 dragons take off with their riders and head towards the Steel Spine with the intention of kind of, you'll probably follow, and just as a sidebar, for anyone who's like, which map? They're essentially going from the original Dragon Riders map to the new one, both of which are in the Discord in the Dragon Riders channel. Is pinned, so you can just go check them out if you want. And when I refer to the maps, I'll either say the Harrowhold or the Sentry's Roost one going forward, so you know which one we're talking about. On the Sentry's Roost map, there's a part of the Steel Spine that goes to the west. You'll probably be following that line there to get to Skein Lag. So, as is traditional, the dragons beat their wings. That's loud. Apologies. That's the intro loudness there. I didn't turn it down.
Helium loudness.
Yeah, they're eating some of those helium fish. Maybe an eel. Helium.
You also didn't say perilous.
Oh, perilous, yeah, cool. So, you take off and you start climbing, because the mountains can be quite high in areas. It's worth getting the height now. And you head over the swamp, what remains of it, before you get to the mountains, and start flying over the mountain range. The mountains themselves are quite dark, quite blackened rock, for the most part. And I will actually ask for a roll, and I'll roll for Argent for you. So, okay. So, what we're going to need is for, I would say in this instance, for our dragons to roll me a resolve. So
Any tags?
This is a visual, more than anything else, but is essentially senses for the most part. So smell and that type of thing can play into it as well. I don't think Argent has anything to help with that, but I will roll for him nonetheless. He got no
My
successes.
multi-heads can't be outnumbered with that being able to see.
It would help. Also, they have a tendency to scan. The two side ones have a tendency to scan as you fly.
Yes.
So I would say that would reduce the success gate from a 6 to a 5, which you don't need. But oh no, sorry, that was Incinzia. Okay, so Incinzia, possibly because you're out front as usual, you do see the best way to describe it is a large, what almost looks like a dinosaur. Yeah, it's on the mountainside, and it's kind of weaving through the valleys. It's taking up a lot of the space. Currently, it's moving away from where the swamp is, and it's moving along that line of the steel spine. I don't know how learned Incinzia is on creatures and monsters. So, but I would say that seeing as you have both Cassandra and Argent here, bringing up the fact that there's this giant kind of like armored, kind of waddling hunk of... It looks... The best way I can describe it in a meta sense is kind of like a mix of like rhino and armadillo. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, if you want to do a scene, you can, but we can also just bring it up and I can tell you what it is, because
Definitely just gonna be like, what is that?
Yeah, okay. So, to fill everyone in, because Cassandra and probably Argent will be more than happy to tell you as you're kind of like flying over it. That's a basilisk, and it's quite a large one at that. If you'd like a little more info on basilisks, I can give you it. They're not as big as dragons. They are one of the originators of the dragon species, from what magical researchers and just essentially the Empire used when they did their research on dragons to figure out how to kill them. They found that there were... I don't think we've actually done this bit of lore either, so I may as well delve into it fully. So there are, I think, 5 or 6 originators of dragon beings. There's a little, like with humans, there's a little bit of a missing connection, a missing link, let's say, as to how they became dragons. But you can see the originator species where dragons originally came from, because they still exist to this day. They sometimes go on rampages. You've actually met one of them, drakes. You remember the stampede of the herd of drakes? Drakes are one of the originators. Those are pack hunters, and they're a lot like wolves, except for lizards and, like a bit bigger. They're also worms, WYRM. They are kind of giant snakes, but not quite so poisonous. Think like a dragon-looking anaconda. It's that kind of vibe. A lot faster, a lot more aggressive, but solitary hunters. Also, if you ever run into one, they spit acid, so be careful for that. There's also the lindworm, which is more arctic, aquatic, and swamp dwelling. You haven't seen any in the swamp currently, but they do exist in the swamp. They're fast, and they are, I think the closest I could give you is like a lungrodon, like Argent. They're a lot more kind of, they have kind of front legs, very strong jaws, and are very aggressive. But again, solitary hunters, and for the most part, not too much trouble. Then there is the Basilisk, which is large, stocky, multiple legs, very slow, but very dangerous. They have a not poisonous bite, but invariably, even with dragons, a bite from a basilisk will fester, and like it has to be tended to very carefully. Otherwise, it'll fester and get infected, and is dirty animals basically. And they have a gaze. Their eyes can stun, paralyze, and even in extreme examples turn weaker beings to stone. So if you're in an area where you see a few statues of bunny rabbits and foxes and stuff, you know that there's a basilisk in the area. Finally, the last one, which is possibly not real, but is something that magical. This extra bit will be probably just for Cassandra and Argent, unless you've told them about this legend. What people think linked together these let's call them progenitors to the dragon race is the Chimera. The Chimera was essentially a legendary creature which was winged. It was a predator that grew larger and stronger through hunting magical creatures, and it was very known for hunting all of the other progenitors, and it's theorized that the original dragon that birthed all other dragons essentially hunted all of these things until it grew and grew and grew, and enough to adjust itself magically and to basically birth the dragon race. But this is like thousands of years in the past, kind of, like almost before the proper birth of the empire or the civilization or anything.
I feel like Argent and I will have opposing views on it, and like, no, it's legend. No, it has to be real.
Yeah.
Just scholarly debate.
There's also a possibility that dragons were essentially, like humans, evolving from primates. It's just an evolution that filled a gap.
Mm-hmm.
That went in a bit more magical direction. But yes, essentially, that's what you see below you is a pretty large basilisk. Something that in general would have been dealt with by Sentry's Roost. Assumedly, it hasn't been because, well, there is no Sentry's Roost.
Eyes and Cynthia, I'm just carrying on. Like, we've had the info. They've not really told me how to kill it. Like, yeah. It's not bothering me. Whatever.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yep.
Carrying on. Unless anyone particularly wants to raise the point of like, hey, we should deal with that thing. I assume everyone's a bit too much like ultra bound as opposed to,
Ardor is like literally trying to keep up with Insidia. That is how like Ardor is like,
wow,
okay, I'm like, no, we need to be there and we should have been there 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Kind of thought.
In that case, we will fade as the dragons keep heading down and the riders keep heading down the Steel Spine towards Skein Lag, and we will join someone we haven't seen for a little bit. I swear she's here somewhere. Ah, there you are. Ultra. You are sat in the town hall, not bound or anything like that, but essentially under guard from about 10 people who are all a little bit hesitant, and the best way to describe them is they are committed, but they're also worried because they have grown up respecting and fearing dragon riders to a certain degree. Even without the dragon riders tend to train heavily, are capable warriors, and can hold their own. Now, I would say you yourself, you probably don't think you can take on 50 to 100 townsfolk. But, yeah. So, you are essentially, you are surrounded, and there is one person you've been speaking to, the person who kind of like, he invited you in, he spoke for the town and basically said, hey, come feast with us, we'll have something to eat, we'll discuss things, and we'll give you some information about what's been going on here. You're like, lovely, let's do that, and then things got a bit nasty when he and everyone else started to pester you for help. And you basically said, we're not involved, we don't know what we're doing yet, and that's when they surrounded you, and Ardor being outside because couldn't fit in the town hall. Apologies, Ardor, you're just a bit too big. You essentially relayed to Ardor that they refused to let you go, and you didn't want to fight, and therefore Ardor was sent back, and you are now waiting. So the speaker's name is Pronin, kind of like the town mayor, I guess, except for the mayor left. A little bit more information I can give you is that a large portion of the town left during the desolation incident, and afterwards with... you haven't got much information out of them yet, but from what you know, there's a similar situation here that's going on in Harrowhold area, whereby the cities and towns are starting to form.
So is this person in the room with me?
He's in a chair like opposite you with people surrounding you.
I'm not going to say anything because they're holding me hostage at this point. And I think at this moment, like in a mind game kind of way, I'm going to start meditating.
Okay. So you close your eyes and you kind of...
Are my legs bound or are they not? Like, am I bound or just kind of...
You're not bound.
No. I'll pull my legs up onto the chair in like a crisscross and like straighten my back up and like close my eyes and just kind of go into like a trance-like state.
And when you do that, it takes a couple of seconds, but Pronin like pipes up and says, "You're not communicating with your dragon, are you?"
Just because of the absurdity of that, like I just kind of like my eyes flicker open and I just look at him. It's not quite how it works.
Oh, sorry, we're not really sure how these things work.
Can I leave, please?
No. We can't afford to let such an opportunity go. We never intended to make enemy of any dragon or dragon rider, but our need is great, and...
Would you be able to sleep at night knowing that you're doing this?
If it meant that I saved these people here, then yes. There aren't enough of us now, and we are very limited in our options. The main option that we have now is to stay here, and that is not very viable. So we're looking for other options. And gaining the help of a dragon rider or a dragon rider pod would be brilliant right now. Therefore, you cannot leave.
I think I just look around at all the people kind of standing around. Do they have weapons? Are they like intimidating or?
They do have like very basic kind of town tool weapons, blacksmith hammers and things like that. But currently they're not like over you, like threateningly, like kind of like, we have weapons and we'll attack you. At the very least, they know that they have enough people to subdue you if needed. But at the same time, you know that you're more martially skilled than them. So it's kind of a case of like, and the town hall itself is reasonably large. It's a bit like the town hall. I hate to bring it up, but it's like the town hall where you found the Scar, the girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite open and it's a kind of a gathering place for everyone. So,
Well, how many people are around me?
Around 10 are like close around you, kind of keeping watch, and then there's the rest of them are spread out in the town hall.
So like I'd have to take out these people and then like take out a town hall at the same time.
It's the reason why you decided to
Yeah.
not go for the violent route, because
Mhm.
essentially if you fought, you could beat them in one-on-one combat, but the likelihood is they'd all just pile on top of you and restrain you, which is
Okay.
you know, with if you had Ardor with you, it'd be more viable to kind of affect something, but
Yeah.
people would get hurt is the problem.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I think at this point I just feel a little defeated. I don't really know what you expect. Like we're not going to come be your saviors.
We'll see. Originally, the Dragon Riders were created to help people.
Don't you realize how dangerous this is?
Don't you
To keep
realize
me-
how dangerous everything is now?
Yeah, but I'm not going to lie to you. This could go very badly for all of you, and then there won't be anyone left.
We suspect that may happen anyway without your help.
And I look at him very curiously, just in his responses. So if you just completely resolved the end for yourself?
I won't lie, this wasn't something we planned out. But now that it has come to this, we see a possible salvation where before we were pretty hopeless, or at least we had no good options in front of us. I understand that taking a Dragon Rider prisoner is not exactly something to be hopeful about, but the other options we currently have are not good.
Well, guess if you're okay with whatever outcome happens, then it just seems like you're very hopeless in a way that all the lives of the people out there who might have shreds of hope, you're just willing to roll the dice on.
Have you traveled around this area recently?
I mean, I flew over the area.
Spoken to the people in the surrounding villages and cities and towns?
No, I didn't really take the time to do interviews.
You know, Sentry's Roost has been destroyed. The vast majority of the riders and dragons were killed.
Well, and like I just think back to all the stuff that I've learned over the last bit, like my pod leader's dead, just like the destruction that we've seen. And it's almost like a dissociation moment before coming back into myself. So what's your plan here? What do you foresee happening, that the Dragon Riders come in and we just have hero written on our back and we save you all? What's the best possible outcome?
The best possible outcome currently would be that we don't have to move and leave this place. You'd pledge to defend us, and we could remain independent.
Why do we need to fight for you? I don't know you.
No, and I don't know you. However, that was originally the job of the Dragon Riders, yes? To maintain the peace.
Things have changed, haven't they?
Yes, things have changed.
Then why didn't you ask first? Why didn't you just like... I guess you did ask and I didn't want to, but I don't know. You didn't even give me the opportunity to go back and talk to my pod.
There's a very strong chance that if you went, you would not return, and we couldn't take that chance.
You realize now people do not like dragon riders.
It depends on the dragon riders. Regalia is quite fond of them. They have 4.
I don't like your methodology and what you think that this is going to end up doing, because if we do end up helping you, it's not going to be because we want to.
That is acceptable if you help.
This is not our fight. As you said, everything's changed. Just because you hold us to a certain standard doesn't mean that you get what you want.
Which is why we kept you as a guest.
I am not a guest. I am a hostage.
Yes. Yes, you are.
So you try to spin it however way you want. I'd like to leave now.
We can't let you leave.
I'm going to stand up.
As you do, all of the 10 around you tense, and the rest of the town hall, which is kind of there's a slow murmur, nervousness, and kind of I mean, Ultra wouldn't know this, but it's kind of like a battlefield before a fight. Everyone's nervously talking and trying to ignore what's actually happening. And everyone, it just goes quiet, and everyone kind of turns their heads. And
What are you going to do? Kill me? How's that going to go when my pod arrives and they find me dead?
we won't kill you, but so far we haven't had you restrained or anything like that. And there are enough of us here to hold you down and restrain you, if needed. You may be a dragon rider, but without your dragon, you can't take all of us. And
I smirk at him. And I do you know who I am?
I don't believe you've introduced yourself yet.
Perhaps you've made a mistake not asking who I was first.
Very well. Who are you?
I'm debating if I actually want to tell. Because how renowned is the Bond name? Do people know it or no?
Not really. The
Mhm.
isolationist nature, sorry, give me a second here. The original, I would say, in this area, not even the Kasorians would be known, but kind of by rumor.
Mm-hmm.
Who was it? It was Titania Bon is mostly, if she's at all known, she's mostly known as a war leader and a raider, because that's what she originally was.
Okay.
So being just in Sagacia with your tribe, being descended and being named for Titania Barn is very, very high honor, and is a mixture of kind of being you'd be looked upon as being a strong warrior, but also a peaceful kind of protector. Whereas in the further reaches of Lais, the Barn name is much more raiding, and people don't really know her story past the original ties with the Kasorian raiders.
Okay. I think in general, I'm just choosing to not say the name and kind of just letting it linger to kind of I'm holding cards because I do not know that they know a lot about what dragon riders are.
Yeah.
Do you know what a dragon rider is capable without a dragon?
Not really, no. But
I get really quiet and I lean in to him.
roll me your martial, please.
Okay. I'm not doing anything. I'm just leaning in.
I know, but you are a dragon rider. You know,
Okay.
like it is. I would say you can probably use your tag for probably dragon rider and hunting if you're intentionally trying to intimidate him.
Okay. So I have my 5. I am trying to intimidate.
Yes.
So it's 5 plus 2, right?
It would be 5, and then,
And then-
your success gate would be a 4. So
Okay. So I got a full success.
So as you lean in, he even though you can probably tell he doesn't want to, he naturally leans back a little bit. You can tell he's unsure of himself, especially one-on-one with you.
Yeah.
Regardless.
And I lower my voice and I whisper, so the others can't hear.
Yeah.
Or if they do, they catch little bits of it. You realize that if you were a good leader, you'd let me go before you put all your people at risk.
And he kind of closes his eyes for a second, almost to kind of steel himself. He's like, my people are already at risk. We realize that we're taking an extreme risk to anger even one dragon. But the other options are things we do not want to do, at least in the current situation. There was a time whenever there was any type of danger, before the Dragon Riders would be able to come to our aid, we would retreat into the forest, which is no longer an option.
I look at him and I kind of baffled at his just logic. There's nothing more dangerous than a leader who doesn't have any hope. You're going to get everybody killed, and it's going to be your fault.
Maybe. But if we do nothing, then everyone will either die or end up under the yoke of a tyrant. And we do not bow to a king.
I do not bow to you, and I'm going to try to start leaving.
He stands up, and the people around you also moving closer. He's not attempting to engage with you, but he stands in your way and puts his hand up.
I'm going to walk around him. I'm going to hold myself tall, and I'm just going to start maneuvering. If he touches me, though, then I will engage.
So he's going to and essentially at this point, everyone is going to get up, and he is going to the people around will kind of move around you as he's kind of getting in your way and trying to not engage but slow you down. The rest of the people kind of move to the entryway, to the doorway, to kind of cover that. And there's a kind of semicircle of around 10 people around you. So it gets to the point where you can see you've always been able to see the door, but there are about 50 or so people blocking it in the way, with him just in front of them. So you either have to push forward into him and into them, or and he I'm going to assume for a second that you would take at least a heartbeat or so to consider it before you acted.
I feel like that's a GM warning.
No. Well, I mean, okay, obviously you've spoken to him enough to get a feel for how everyone feels in this group, and while he's speaking for them, obviously he's also going by consensus. When you were taken prisoner, as it were, everyone kind of came together immediately to be like, you can't leave, we need you here. He was the one who was designated to speak to you. So
I think in that moment, I'm just going to disregard this guy
Okay.
and I'm going to speak to everybody in the room and address them all. This is not your leader. He will get you killed if you do not let me go.
I'd say like a couple. There's a general kind of like murmuring and like not exactly in anger, but I'd say resentment. And there's a couple of people pipe up. They shout things like, "We're gonna die anyway," or you know, "We're gonna be enslaved," like that type of thing. There's a couple of people who say, "We'll never be ruled by a king."
Then don't be ruled by a king. If you're this desperate, you will fight tooth and nail to get what you want without holding someone hostage. My pod could arrive and just wipe you out immediately. Why would we want to help you after doing this?
I would say at that point, Pronin would step kind of like reassert himself a little bit.
I'm gonna put my hand up, you know, like when your mom in the car puts their hand up to like stop you if they stop short. Like I'm gonna put my hand up, like not touching, but kind of like do not say anything.
Okay.
Does he say anything? Or
He says, if you want, we can replace me as speaker. If it is just me that is the issue.
no, there's more than just an issue. None of you have hope, so you're going to other people to bring you hope. Find that hope and use it to fight for yourself.
We would if we had a valid option. We have nowhere to go.
That's because you're not making yourself a way to go. Everything has changed in this landscape. I have nowhere to go. I am making my way. You all can make your way too. Don't put it on someone else and someone else to save you. We're all trying to save ourselves right now.
It's
You can't just have things handed to you.
It's surprisingly easy to be able to say that when you have a dragon and the power of a god.
I would like for you to shut up. At this point, all you do is just pessimistic. Oh, woe is me. I understand you're in a desperate, depressing situation. We all are. But that does not mean that you hold someone hostage to fix your lives. You think you're the only group of people going through something like this? Uprooted and trying to figure out what your next step is? I'm in this situation as well. Yes, I am a dragon rider, but it is not my responsibility to fix all of your lives. So what happens? Once we fix this problem for you, the next one that arrives, you take another person hostage to fix it because you can't find within yourself some fire to keep pushing? At this point, why should I fight for any of you? None of you care about your situation. You're all listless and depressed. I'm listless and depressed, but I still try. There's no logic here. So let me leave and let me talk with my pod. But at this point, why should we fight for you if you do not even care? You expect us to ride up on our dragons and fix all of this while you stand behind and go, yeah, they'll take care of it. What kind of future will you build for yourselves if you just don't care? We can make and pave a way for you. And then what are you going to do with that? Have enough firewood, and then when the firewood runs out, you go, I guess that's it. We're just going to get cold.
Is that where Ultra...
Yeah, I'll stop and look around and see if there's any reaction from anybody.
As you finish, there is kind of like an uncertain like ripple through the crowd. You may have hit a nerve. And there's a little bit of murmuring, and then a fairly demure and fairly short woman steps forward and grabs the back of Pronin's robe. And he kind of turns to her, and you catch her saying this. She says, Pronin, I think we've gone too far. And he like turns to her, and like there's a quick moment of kind of like non-verbal communication there. And he turns back to you and says, would you sit down for a few moments while we talk?
Are they making a way? Like, is the door still blocked?
Technically speaking, there are still still a load of people in your way. They're not like squared up against you. They're kind of looking at each other and starting to have low discussions. So it's much more uncertain than it currently was.
I feel like this is a very tense situation, so I'm seeing progress in a way of not people squaring up to fight me harder, but there's a little bit of unsureness, so I'm going to just curtly nod. Do not take too long.
Okay. It will probably take around about 5 to 10 minutes for them to properly discuss, and you can hear the like, I would say, I'll give you a few snatches of conversation of what they're talking about. You hear some people complaining that you have essentially taken a child hostage. That even though the Dragon Riders are powerful, like, the old ways of having to rely on them are gone, and they have to get used to solving their own problems. And that essentially it is unfair to drag anyone into the situation, much less someone who is inexperienced and young, even if powerful. And you get like this type of like lean. Apparently your words affected them to a certain degree, and you hear more and more talk about either making for the steel spine, or like what I'll say is, some people are talking about maybe we can avoid the Basilisk. Some people are saying it doesn't matter what happened to the others, maybe we should just go into the deep roots.
I guess I'm just like listening to them, and I think I'm appreciating that there is other options being brought to the table versus just the Dragon Riders are going to fix this.
Yeah.
Because like in the back of Ulcha's mind, like we don't have a lot of resources ourselves as a pod. We are displaced. Everywhere we go, it's hostile. We don't know what the fight would be like. Like there's just so many unknowns in the situation that, you know, she firmly believes that we need to all adapt and if we all need to uproot, regardless of where we come from, that's just the way that surviving is right now. And I guess I'll hear that unsureness, and then I pipe up after I feel like, okay, it's been like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All of us have a new path to take. None of us expected this. My entire world was turned upside down, and we're all learning how to survive right now, but this is not the way to do it. We're all better than this.
At that point, Pronin steps forward again, like with his hand out in kind of like a mollifying kind of like, no more need for speeches. My wife has a good point. It is unfair of us to ask more than you are able to do. So, hopefully you can overlook this as accident or mistake born from desperation. We do not want to bind you here. However, would you be willing to listen to our situation? And perhaps you can at least offer us advice or guidance from the perspective of a dragon rider as to what we can do. Just as a little bit of info, you received kind of garbled panic information when they were like, please help us, we have all these problems, and you were like bombarded with stuff.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're not 100% sure what's wrong with them, but you probably have a few ideas at this point, based on what they've been talking about.
I think besides the situation being like frustrating, it's something where I'm like, I didn't get bodily hurt. Like,
Yeah.
they separated me from Ardor, which I am angry about. But knowing Ardor is going to go get my pod, I look around the room and are the people scared? And you were saying like they're kind of all chattering. They look nervous, right? I kind of like tuck away that frustration. I think the pod would, if I can talk to my pod, they might have some ideas. And I think greeting them outside, free of being surrounded by people with weapons, will help that situation. I don't think we're against that. It's not that we don't want to help. There's just a certain way about doing it.
So, for a second, we're going to switch and just get the perspective of the riders who are very close to the town. The first thing I can give you is there isn't any activity on the outskirts of the town, so as you're approaching, you'll see that it is pretty much deserted and kind of a ghost town in the kind of like circle surrounding it and the small walls around the edges. Again, like I can give this to you all with your senses, and especially with your sense of smell. All of the human smell is very much centered in that one building in the center. There has not been activity in the outskirts for quite a while. So I guess the question is how are you, before I go any further with Ultra, I think it's important to know what you guys are doing, because there's a possibility that you charge straight into the town hall and burn everything. I don't know. So I guess mostly it's probably going to be Cassandra and Rithera, like, deciding on a plan of approach.
Rithera doesn't want to hurt people, but she has no time for this at all. Like, especially seeing that there's a basilisk in the area, knowing that, like, there are other things that we should be doing. It's not fighting people's wars for them. And how dare you take one of ours captive?
Yeah.
So quick and efficient with the least amount of deaths is Rithera's kind of. So whatever she can do to be intimidating.
Okay.
As long as making sure that, like, it's unless they've got like a knife up to Ultra's the throat, and then you know what I mean. So like,
okay,
that's Rithera's kind of mindset. I don't know how Cass feels, but
Cassandra's pissed off. As I said, like, they've captured Ultra. Even if we do the thing they want, who's to say they won't do it again? And as well, how dare they? Like, this is outrageous. This is not acceptable. So my thought is, try and negotiate, but we need to make it incredibly clear there are reprisals for this shit.
Okay.
Somehow.
All right. So my question, I guess, is are you going to land and approach with your dragons, or are you just going to go straight in and basically make an impact?
I like it.
I don't think we want to be put in a position of being captured ourselves.
Yeah. So, I think Rithera would do what she could to be intimidating without hurting people, which potentially means landing on the roof of the town hall
I was wondering,
with smoke coming out of Incensio's mouth, like totally just letting the like intimidation factor.
Gonna like massively roar when she lands, and
could I make a suggestion for an impactive entrance?
don't make me fall through the roof.
No. The roof is strong enough to hold you.
And it's not like a tent, right?
No. It's
It's like, can we just like pick the tent up?
It's more wooden and stone. The roof itself is like is straw to a certain degree, but also sticks and wood and etc.
Beams. And stuff.
Being from the mountains, there's more stone architecture, which was brought down originally, but the roofs themselves and stuff. So, what you could do is Cassandra and Argent could land and essentially wrap around the building. Interestingly enough, at this point, Argent is large enough to wrap around the building at least one turn. Incinzia and Ardor could land with a thump on the roof, not breaking through it, but they could, after that, basically push their heads through the roof.
Well, is there like a smoke hole? Because I know in the last town hall there was in the center.
There is a smoke hole, yes. It wouldn't be large enough to fit through, but it's large enough to fit heads
Like,
through.
yeah.
The main door, is it like big enough for one of Ardor's heads to fit in?
It would be the doors are closed, I can give you that, but it would be just about big enough.
It's a closed door. I'm sure that a bashing head. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, is that Ardor's, okay, so...
Oh, Ardor's like not having it.
Alright, in that case...
No diplomacy from Ardor. Absolutely none.
I mean, Cassandra's gonna... We're leaning into the intimidation as a negotiation tactic.
Okay, so let me... Is Ultra here?
I don't
She's
think, not yet.
away for a
I
moment.
don't think
Quite,
she's
okay.
stepped away for a moment.
In that case, I am curious for Rithera, how are you feeling about that Basilisk?
So that was about to be my other question.
Yeah.
I think that for Rithera, her brain was so focused on
The pod.
getting Ulcha. Like, we can't take on a Basilisk when Ulcha, like that divided factor. But it's literally Rithera's mind is in a fact of like, the faster we can be here, the faster we can get Ulcha, the faster we can go deal with that Basilisk.
Yeah.
Like, it is this is our next priority. It is as fast as a pit stop, picking up who we need, and let's get out of here.
I would say Cassandra and Argent would also have mentioned that you'd need all of you to effectively deal with a Basilisk of that size and like, you know, magnitude, essentially. And it would also delay you for a while because they're very resilient. And in general, what the Dragon Riders used to do with Basilisks, at least, as opposed to kind of like the more, the faster moving, you know, like the Drakes and stuff like that. Generally, the Drakes would be turned away if possible, but most likely killed to a degree. Basilisks, much more. It's a lot, and again, Cassandra would know this because reading. the tactics for Dragon Riders to deal with basilisks is flame the crap out of them until they start getting pissed off and move in the direction away from where the flames are coming from. So it's almost like herding. Like the dragons would be hovering over the basilisk and just like hitting them with flame. If you get too close, then you become susceptible to their gaze, to their that aspect of things.
I think Rithera is nervous, is anxious, is divided, and very much in a sense of we need to deal with this quickly, but also is confident in Peak and its ability and its resilience of what it's done in the past and the training that I know that I have. Okay. So, and in the training of the city or town. So knowing that I'm like, okay, the faster we get there, the faster we can help and the less likely anybody is to get hurt.
Yeah.
But going there without Ulcha isn't an option in my mind.
Okay. Well, I would say also like the idea of like divided attention and divided loyalties is very much becoming a theme for our Dragon Riders this season.
Yes.
But with Ultra here, I will now describe what happens next, given what everyone has said. So, Ultra, fading back into you, essentially you have said that, I can talk to my pod, we can have a bit of a discussion maybe, but, you pretty much have to stop holding me captive, otherwise they're going to be pissed. At which point, a big boom hits on the top of the and the roof kind of shakes a little bit as a blue like feral head comes poking in through the smoke hole at the top of the building, and there's this kind of like low rumbling growl. Incinzia, is there any flame or is there none at all?
I don't want to set on fire. I'm just gonna roar at them.
Okay. And there's like a heavily harsh guttural roar at the same time as the windows start to lose and gain light as you see this kind of like snaky silvery body like wrapping around the edge of the building and kind of constricting around it, and the door implodes as the middle of Ardor's head scatters all of the people who were back to the door and just bursts in and kind of like sweeps people away, and people start to scream and panic and run.
I think.
Ultra, are you okay?
I'm fine. I just kind of got this handled. But I look around and in a way I don't feel that bad because I tried to tell them for a very long time like that this could have been an issue. And I kind of put my hands up and I look at Ardor. We don't have to come and like mess stuff up.
Can I I know Arjun's not here right now, but can we use this enhancement to sort of enhance Cassandra's voice into like projection into the hall?
Absolutely. Give me a control. I will roll for Argent's power. So this is going to be enhancement. Oh, holy crap.
We're pissed off.
Yeah, I feel like I would run over to Ardor and like give a side hug and just say, I am so glad to see you.
I'm so glad to see you. I was so worried.
Ultra, as you're running towards Ardor, you feel this kind of like tickle in your throat and this kind of like this kind of like strengthening almost of your neck and as that kind of like area. It feels almost like when you channel Ardor's power and you manifest her power. And when you say, I'm so glad to see you, I'm going to step back from the light for a little bit. You go.
It was
I'm
Cassandra.
so glad.
wanted
And it's like it booms. It like deafens half of the people in the room. And you were just intending to say it in a normal voice, but it sounds like there's like 50 speakers and you're speaking into a microphone. Like,
Wait, was Cassandra trying to do that?
for Cassandra.
oh, sorry, I thought you wanted to do it for Ultra.
No, we need to yell at them for that
Oh.
song.
I mean, we can have both of us have it happen if we want.
It was a pretty good roll. Can we have that?
Yeah, like with that roll, absolutely. You can do it for everyone, including the dragons, but you'd probably kill some people.
Well, not upset about that. I'm gonna, Cassandra's gonna pretty much yell from outside. Release our podmate immediately.
I'm just like, Cassandra, I'm trying to yell back.
Yeah,
I had a nice talk with them, and I think we kind of ended on like they just need our advice now.
And like you can hear each other because you have accentuated your voices, Cassandra and Argent have like done that to you. But at the same time, there is screaming and running and panic, and people are bumping into each other and all that type of thing. And there's a couple of people, Pronin and his wife are kind of in the center, a little bit frozen, but and kind of looking on in kind of like a, oh shit, we did this kind of way.
Yeah, you did.
I mean, I look back at them and I can see everybody kind of freaking out. I'll be like, it's fine. I kind of was trying to let you all know what was going to happen. It's just a little confusing right now. And I'm like trying to kind of... But I'm also kind of like, this is what happens when you take someone hostage and then they come with their friends who also have dragons.
Not gonna do it again.
Nope, this is a teachable moment. I think.
So, what I will say is that there is a fair amount of confusion. There's like Incensia is like raw, 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 and Ardor is like her.
Ardor's trying to talk to Ulcha, which comes out as roars anyways for everybody else. So there's like a constant babble that are just constant roars from this giant red head in the doorway.
And
with the other heads like doing the look around, making sure there's nothing coming from behind.
Of course, once seeing that Ultra is okay, they can't see it outside, but there is also a flapping of the tail from Ardor, which is
booming,
like,
I imagine.
It's because it's in the middle of a town and you have like streets and stuff. What the tail's essentially doing is destroying a couple of buildings behind her, where it's like smacking into one and into the other. So it's the whole thing. What I will say though is, for the sake of expediency and me not having to play out the actions of about 100 scared, terrified people, there's nowhere for them to go. So
terrible design.
Terrible design. I mean, technically they could climb out, they could escape through the top of the smoke hole, but I was gonna say there's a very angry blue dragon up there who is currently snarling, so that no one's gonna try that.
I do feel like Incendia's having a great time. Like flapping and
that's just so
yelling.
worrying.
that checks out though. Like I'm like, that makes sense for Incensia.
Like, oh, this is great. Like
so what I will present you with is a holding pattern of the scared villagers majorly grouping at the back, the furthest away they can from the angry red dragon, and there's not much they can do about the angry blue dragon in the ceiling. And the representatives of Pronin and his wife will essentially try and calm everyone down. It will take a second, which will allow Cassandra and Rithera, along with Ultra of course, but to decide, like, do you want to go in at all, or because essentially at this point you have them hostage now. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think I'm
the tables have turned.
Push Ardor out of the way so we can get through the door. Like, Ardor, how are we supposed to get her out if you are there?
Well, I just had to make sure she was okay, and I'm like moving my neck so that my head is still like, if I'm pushing up the door of the house, making it a little bigger so that they can get underneath, but my head's not going anywhere.
Past the neck, it's like it's shoulders and two other heads. So
so like I'm moving my head to make it so that Rithera and Sandra can get in,
Okay.
or that Ulcha could get out, whichever they would prefer. But my head's not going anywhere.
And
I see
Yeah.
Ulcha, and I'm not letting my eyes off of her.
what I'll say is, essentially for right now, the speaker, Pronin, and his wife, and a couple of others who were with, you recognize them as basically standing around you, Ultra, when you were held captive, as it were, are doing a mix of calming down the people and reassuring them, and waiting for you to essentially deign to talk to them, because the tables are completely switched. So if you guys want to have a quick conversation between the riders, etc., do feel free. I will be back momentarily.
Yeah, we definitely duck in, right?
I imagine you want to have a quick word about exactly what's going on.
When
Are
you
you
two, yeah, are you coming in?
Yeah.
Okay. As soon as I see both of you, I'd be like, I'd rush over. There's a lot that's happened. I mean, you guys really came in with a bang.
That's what we do.
Seems like the appropriate tactic.
I mean, yeah, they were holding me hostage, but I was able to talk them into discussing things with us. I mean, in a way, I feel like this wasn't a bad thing, though. I think they can learn from this.
We don't have time to really discuss. There's a basilisk on its way towards peak, so we don't really have much time.
So do we need to go and handle that?
Yes.
I feel we need to hammer home this can never happen again.
Can you do it in like 5 minutes?
Absolutely. Did we not just do this and less?
Well, I mean, the intimidation factor might be pretty good, actually.
You were, I mean, I look like gesture back to the crowd and just how everybody's just like, ah, and be like, I think you guys did a really good job.
Well, we needed to make sure you were okay.
You are well.
Yeah, they didn't hold me hostage in the, tie me up kind of sense, but they definitely were trying to not let me leave. And
It's unacceptable. And we couldn't lose you.
I kind of linger on that word when you say that. And you can see that I'm maybe like struggling with that verbiage. And I nod at you. I'm really glad you came. Thank you.
Forever and always, we're a pod.
Sorry I got kidnapped.
Doing okay.
Should we tell them that we need to go handle the basilisk? And that we'll be back? Even if it's just to scold them? And I look over at Cassandra.
I feel we have time to scold them now and leave them.
In 5 minutes.
Absolutely. I'm gonna almost stride to the center of the room.
Yep. And there is a slight shuffling back from the like people at the forefront.
Okay. How dare you kidnap another person to do your bidding? We are not to be used in this way. Dragon Riders have looked after these for years, and this is how you repay people? This is disgusting. You are lucky we are feeling benevolent today, and we will leave your small town standing.
Do you give them a chance to respond, or do you just like...
That is their chance
Yes.
to respond, yeah.
There's a small amount of like shuffling from the group, but Pronin fairly quickly steps forward and says, "You have a point. I won't deny. And we did rethink things before you dropped in. But you have to keep in mind that we are now in the situation we are with no options, partially because of Dragon Riders."
Everyone has options.
Yes,
This was a terrible option.
this was the best option. And I would, if you like, you can give us a better option, tell us a better path than the one we chose. But we have the option of submission to regalia, we have the option of retreat into the deep roots, which some of our people did when that giant black dragon appeared. They are still there in the deep roots, and they won't be moving anywhere ever again. If you like, I can show you. And then we had the option, which most of us wanted to take, to move into the Steel Spine and resume our lives as our ancestors did, living in the mountains. However, with the dissipation of the Dragon Riders, the monsters, the creatures have not been kept in check, and there is currently a Basilisk, which is getting in the path of Basilisk is tantamount to death by consumption or by being frozen. Which,
We know that, and we are planning to go deal with that if you would let us.
well, if you are...
So holding people hostage and stopping us from doing our jobs and helping you by protecting you from monsters. That's not how you handle a situation.
The situation is such that we are unaware that any Dragon Riders were still doing said job, thus making the mountain seem like a death trap. And
Well, we're doing our best.
I think if you are indeed intending to continue your duties as Dragon Riders, I think I should show you something before you go.
How long will that take?
10 minutes?
You've got 5.
And he kind of gestures out towards the door.
Just you, the rest of them can stay here.
They will.
I'm just gonna turn around and walk away. Like, I'm not even worried about him. Kind of worried about him, but not even worried about it.
Arthur will make room. And I've got your back too. I'm like, because I didn't step forward. I stayed back. So I've got your back of watching what's happening.
I'm just gonna stride past Ardor, like.
And Arthur will move to like make room while there's like low growl as this person approaches.
Okay. So he, Ultra, I'm assuming you go with as well?
I go with, I kind of am following, but I'm keeping my distance because I appreciate the reaction that, Rithera and Cassandra have had.
Yeah.
But I think just because I think Ultra's battery's a little drained, she's obviously going to still participate, but just kind of being like grateful that her friends are here to kind of help. And I'm not going to leave him alone. Yeah, I'm following, but I'm just like more of taking a few steps behind.
Okay. And essentially he points, as you go outside of the building, he says, just outside of the town, towards the deep roots. And he kind of points in the direction. He says, if you want, I can take you there, although it's not too difficult to see.
Point it out.
He points in a direction. Should be less than 5 minutes by dragon.
What are we to see? You can explain it. You've pointed in a direction we understand. What are we to see?
You will see my people who fled into the deep roots when the black dragon came, and why that is no longer an option for us. Aside from that, it is essentially inexplainable.
We can take a look on our way out. What do you, Ultra, Sandra?
We'll deal with the Basilisk, and we never want to hear of your people capturing another Dragon Rider a person again. Are we understood?
Yes.
I'm
Although
just
we
gonna
all can't stay serious. We're like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Grr.
evil eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
I'm hoping-
Cassandra's very impressive when she gets worked up.
Really mad.
Yeah.
Like the audacity.
She's like a matron. How dare you?
How dare you?
Also, it's like very unproductive. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right?
it's like kind of like a waste of time. And I could see maybe not, but Cassandra being like, this is not efficient.
It's
But also it's nice to see her protective.
It's
side.
interesting because it's like, how dare you? And then she sort of tripped over the take a dragon rider, take one of
Yeah.
ours. Like what? Oh, that's not a good look, is it? But I'm going to climb onto Argent and can we? Oh, I want to break a couple of windows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like-
do you want to make a point?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to like shatter the ones near all the people huddling at the back, but I want to make it clear, like, do not mess with those.
Okay. Your voice is your voice still, you know?
No, I feel like we just needed the shout factor to intimidate at the beginning. Once we entered.
Okay. As you know, you're kind of like thinking, kind of saying like we need to make a point. Argent like slithers and wraps around one of the buildings a bit further out, and then his eyes like swivel to you and kind of like yeah. And then his body constricts and it crumples the building. Like the building just kind of like crumples into itself and gets twisted, and it still stands when he unflexes, but it looks like someone's taken a hand and like crushed a Coke can.
Yep, that's okay. Now we're gonna set off in the direction.
The speaker you were speaking to essentially, like, you know, he knows what a dragon could do, but it's a different thing to see one, you know, treat a building like a can. He, without a word, he turns and heads back in. Like, what I'll give you is, like, your speeches, what you said, did affect them, especially seeing as, like, there's a little bit of resentment, and you would say, like, that's coming from a place of these young kids are telling us what to do, and we have to listen because they have dragons and they have power, and like there's a certain amount of mixture of resentment and jealousy there because you have abilities, you have powers, and you have very often in these situations people don't see the responsibility and the lack of freedom. They think that power equals freedom.
Right.
And like I think all of the dragon riders, probably more than the dragons, are starting to realize that the more power you have, sometimes the less free you are. Like the number of divided loyalties you have at this point and the number of things you want to do and realize you can't do are increasing. But for them, they don't see that. They just see these people could do anything they want. If I had that power, I could fly away and live free.
Yep.
So, yeah, they you know, they are contrite and they are ashamed of themselves, but at the same time, there's a little glowing, you know, ember of resentment and jealousy and that type of thing, which is probably apparent enough. And you're headed off towards the steel spine?
I still say we peek at what they were talking about. Yeah, the steel spine, and then to peek.
Okay.
We peek at the thing and then go to peek.
Peak to peak.
Peek to peek.
Probably like update Ultra on what a basilisk is on the way and make sure like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would fill them all in on like what happened, and I don't know, just make the most of like, hey, this is what went down, and like I think a little sesh to get us all caught up.
So
And I'm sure that Rithera would actually, as much as she wants to, she would take a moment to be like, "Are you okay?"
I think so. I got very angry.
So
Thank-
I'll give you a little bit more information on on the situation here, because they did talk about it when they were shouting at you and everything. Currently, you could argue that this area is in a worse position than Harrowhold and the surrounds. Currently speaking, the Regalia has had pledges of allegiance by Clurin, Foothold, and Orsania. Let me just double check that that's correct. Yeah. So all of the surrounding towns and villages, and obviously there's extra domiciles around the area on the map, but we don't show all of them because I don't have that much time to do all of that crap. It's assumed that there's smaller villages and
Hamlets
stuff.
and stuff.
The only place on this side of the lake that hasn't pledged would be Skein Lag, and further to the north, which goes into the deserts, which would be Miranda, Respite, etc. Regalia also has 4 Dragon Riders, a full pod, who the Regalia sheltered them during the Desolation incident, and afterwards, with the loss of their master, they pledged themselves to help Regalia, which led to Regalia announcing its intention to crown Athis de Clare as king. So they are essentially, he's 15, will turn 16 in about a year, which will be when he comes of age and he becomes king. Obviously, someone younger like that, fairly, manipulable. But they have essentially installed a governor, who is called Governor Sergius Monwell, who is going to be regent for Athis de Clare, who is of noble and imperial blood. They're forming a kingdom, and I believe the coronation is in about half a year. Along with that, obviously, four riders who are young, they've been learning. I think they're about a year ahead of you in terms of when they joined and how much they've been training. The only other thing I can say that would have come up for you in the quick discussion, the only resistance in this area is a gateway, which is on the other side of the lake and protected by a couple of bridges. Well, protected. When you have Dragon Riders, it's less so. The only advantage that Gateway has, aside from... Gateway is one of the first places that rose up against the Empire, way back in the day when the rebellion started happening. They have a master, a surviving master called Tyroterus Cornex. Obviously, you haven't had any interaction, so you don't know who he is or what his deal is or anything like that. But Gateway is trying to draw together places like the Free Trade Hub, which isn't so much of a town as it is basically a market that just kept growing. And then Legaton, Larchmont, and even the northern places of Respite and Miranda. They have even tried to, essentially resist Regalia and the formation of forming this kingdom by offering to Orsania and other places to protect them, but it's virtually impossible for them to actually do so. So those places pretty quickly pledged to Regalia, becoming part of the kingdom. So more so than Harrowhold, this looks like this may turn to war and places like that. Currently, you don't really have resistance to Cargilia, and Cargilia hasn't Cargilia is offering protectorship to all of the other city-states. It's not declaring itself a kingdom. It's not declaring itself like its own big faction with itself as the lead. It's more kind of trying to form like a defensive pact or something like that. However, I will draw probably Cassandra's notice to something that you heard before, which is that there has been communication between Cargilia and Regalia.
Yeah.
So.
And obviously I recognize the name. And when you were saying they're not looking to crown a sovereign, I'm like, yet. Like, we'll see about that one.
Well, I mean,
it's hard to say, isn't it? But a lot is done.
It's actually, technically speaking, it would be easier to crown a king in Cargilia, because they have someone of age and of royal blood who could be crowned. Do you need me to tell you who that is?
I know who that is.
Okay. It's our brother.
I got that by the
Great.
face.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
cool, because technically you'd be second in line to the throne, because he doesn't have any kids yet. Oh, he's not even married at the moment, actually.
He's also. Yeah, and it's interesting. And Cassandra also announced that, dragons are not to help subjugate other people.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
I mean, like, I'm not going to defend those people. You can understand, like,
Yeah.
like the addition of dragon riders to any faction, like especially 4 like that, which is quite a lot, even if they are, fairly young and untrained, adds a lot to the dynamic of power in the area. One dragon rider, like even if he was new, as new as you guys are, could probably subjugate a whole. I mean, you literally just did subjugate a whole town pretty easily. Just like, hey, what's up? So.
Avoid them.
And I will say that there are like existing anti-dragon techniques in warfare, but those are dating all the way back to the time of the Empire, when they were hunting and killing dragons. And that wasn't with the addition of dragon riders, which adds a whole load of like nuance and power to any combat. So, if things, I'd say possibly Cassandra would be the main source of this thought, just purely because she'd have read, old texts and stuff like that. Most likely, if war starts to break out across the continent and dragon riders get involved in the fighting, there will be a quick evolution of combat to make up for the fact that now dragon riders are again, like,
I'd be surprised if it's not already being worked on in Kage at the very least, because they already have a master.
Yeah. And one of the things that that is possibly being thought about, or is going to be an issue going forward, is as highly regarded and as highly held up as dragon riders have been for the past few centuries, you can see, like, it's starting to become a trend whereby the surviving dragon riders are now independent and not restricted by the rules. They're starting to kind of let down people's expectations of them, I guess. At least some of them. I'd say, depressingly, aside from your pod, the most respectable dragon rider you've met is the one who ran away.
Yeah.
Aradan True Shield. I don't know whether that recontextualizes your meeting with him, because I think you guys were a bit disappointed with it.
We were. We didn't have a lot of good options either.
No.
But yeah.
So, carrying on, you do a quick fly out in the direction that Pronin pointed, and I will say you see a bizarre formation of trees that essentially the deep roots have always been curtailed by Skein Lag and surrounding villages, but there is this like long line of trees kind of trickling out from the kind of border of the forest, kind of dotted from the sky. Quite small and quite from the vision, like just the superior vision of the dragons, you can relay this to your riders if you guys don't land. Essentially, what it looks like is people in the state of running, falling, kind of in a line away from the forest, who have essentially, the best way I can describe it is they look like trees, like they're wooden, and they've still got like the remnants of some features like eyes or face, and they've started to have branches growing out of them, and like some leaves have started to grow and that type of thing, and it kind of tapers off, so it's like one or two like really spread out, and then starts to get more and more. Seems to be about maybe 500 or so, until it gets to the edge of the deep roots, where it is a big congregation of slightly more grown trees that yeah, and then it goes into the deep roots itself.
Would I know like what could do that?
Let's see.
Monster wise. Got dragon lore as well.
So this will be and if anyone else wants to do this as well, this will be a resolve, and this will be like if you have any tags that which reply to this.
Would hunting count?
Not hunting, no.
Oh, what about animal traits?
Not animal traits either, no.
Okay.
Yes, I've got dragon lore.
Yes.
So
Dragon lore would count.
that was the wrong window.
Don't worry, I saw it. So
I have two.
for Cassandra, you'd be rolling on a 5+.
Okay, so I got 2.
2.
I got 2 nat 10s.
Okay.
Ooh.
This is kind of appropriate because the person who grew up closest to the deep roots would be Rithera. And there's a reason why the Baran, the mountain tribes, never really pushed into the deep roots or cut it back. There was a time when the people from the deep roots, essentially, there was a group of people, what one day became the Baran, used to live on the outskirts of the deep roots. They were eventually pushed into the mountains and decided to take up residence there instead, because in the deep roots, there was, and this is essentially hitting back right deep into your legends at this point, so, you know, take however much of this you want with a grain of salt. There was a primal spirit of the forest which used to exist that essentially maintained the dominance of the spirit of the forest. It would, I think the best way to describe it is a little bit like a what's the name of Mr. Tumnus? He in Lion Witch in the Wardrobe.
Fawn?
Yeah, kind of like a fawn, except for like the stag version of that. So about 9 feet tall, and this is like the descriptions. You know, it's like the descriptions.
This is like the bedtime story, the
Yeah.
fable.
Yeah, it's a being who is 9 foot tall, with giant antlers, with like moss dangling off it. You know, like heavily muscled and carrying like a hunting horn and a longbow. and like these big kind of almost like minotaur legs, you know, like that kind of vibe going on. Fairly like deer stag like features as well, like a slightly elongated face and that type of thing, mixture of human and stag, and you know, that type of creature. And he used to invigorate the woods, the deep roots, with song. And it said that his song could twist and grow and empower the forest to come alive, sometimes to move, and in extremes, even larger creatures like basilisks or whoever who came into the forest would be instilled with the primal nature, with the primal power of life, and converted into trees. Which is why if you go deeper and deeper into the dark roots, the deep roots, at least, you know, in the recent times, you'll sometimes see faces in the trees, or you'll see, like, you know, strange shapes of trees where you're like, that kind of looks like a person, or, you know, that kind of looks like a dragon, even. But it's something that hasn't been, you know, people have gone into the deep roots to a certain degree for ages and not had really any difficulties. It's like once you get to the snow and the frost and deeper there, that's where people start to go missing, and that's assumed like monsters or wolves or whatever have kind of taken them. So yeah, that's what you see.
Wow.
Oh, I guess that is a good reason to not go into the deep roots.
Sato. There we go.
It definitely is a good reason, but what was your question, Alja?
What would, I mean, I don't really know what would cause something like this.
He had a bedtime story of a creature that would do this, but it was always just a bedtime story. It was always just a story told around the campfire of why not to go into the woods. And I'll explain.
Yeah. I just like listen, I'm like looking. Why is everything? Doesn't it feel like everything's kind of falling apart?
I feel like we broke some sort of, or not we, but they broke some sort of dam, some magical seal or something that was protecting us from all of this. Isn't that what we discovered, Cass, with the tree?
Things have been shaken up, and things that have been locked away or asleep are now waking up after Desolation's everything. And I feel this isn't just happening in our swamp, this isn't just happening in these woods. It's going to be happening everywhere Desolation went.
Seems like all of the legends that we've heard are coming alive.
I mean, desolation, what does that mean? It's those people, they were almost empty. Everywhere seems like desolation is gone and is just leaving emptiness behind it, and I don't know that we can stop it.
Maybe we can't do everything, but we can do what we can.
We can protect. And with this knowledge of seeing the tree, And these trees.
Seeing as you got 2 10s, and that's quite impressive, I gave you a little bit of info, extra
Okay.
info, which
Right,
is
I'll write that down.
the name of the primal.
Thank you.
Perhaps the city's banding together, obviously not being subjugated, but banding together isn't such a bad thing if they're protecting each other.
We're gonna have to unite against whatever these are.
I mean, we'll have to convince the others if we want to do that.
Well, we knew the name of the tree, right?
The lurker?
And then the name that we gave, or that I remember, was Cairn?
Cairn.
Cairn?
Basically,
Oh.
Cairn, the primal of the forest. Or the primal of the deep roots.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe every area has a primal. The deep forest, the swamp, the mountains.
For Cassandra, seeing as you've done some reading, there are areas which are primal in nature, in the sense of like the swamp, the forest, the deep roots forest, the desert,
I
and
was going to say the outbreak mounds.
Yeah, they kind of personify in a certain way aspects of nature. To give you a little bit more information, just based on these roles and the information you've been gathering, one of those type of things would be Niane's Fall, the island with the volcano.
I did think of that, yeah.
So, like, I'm assuming you're making some connections here.
Yeah.
There is a possibility that desolation is one of the primals of this world.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can't do anything about this right now, can we?
I mean, I don't feel like it's the end of the world, Ultra. The world has survived it before. And, now we have the histories of it, and we are working on the tree and the swamp. We can work on whatever's in the deep roots, but I feel we're being pulled in so many directions that we need to prioritize. And if desolation is a primal being, then I feel the devastation he did, if that's the standard for them, then that they need to be our priority.
Can our priority at this moment in time be saving
Basilisk.
Peak?
Yes, Basilisk. Of course.
We should do that first. Like you said, we need to prioritize, and I just think it's good to remember when you prioritize things that some things don't get done.
Yeah. We are going to have to choose because all of these things need to be done at the same time. Something we won't be able to participate in or help.
I think I'm getting tired.
We're just starting. Do you have enough in you for this little burst, and then we'll try and get some rest and regroup?
I think I obviously want to help with this. And when I say that I'm tired, it's not that I need a nap. It's like when you keep trying and just have that fatigue, but it's in your soul instead.
But you keep trying, Ultra. And eventually you end up with something good. Like joining the Dragon Riders and joining a pod. And there's always the potential for good. It's not if
I think-
you stop.
Well, I haven't stopped yet. And you could see like Ultra kind of like forcing a smile, very clearly like not a real smile. And I think there's like a dullness in her eyes. Just kind of like I'm here, but like, you know, when you see someone who's happy and has like vibrancy to them, there's just like kind of
The smile doesn't reach her eyes.
Yeah.
Like you can see it, but it's not actually there.
Yeah. It's like half the face doesn't match the other half.
Yeah.
And just like there's like almost like a sluggishness in the way that she's moving. And so she's heading over to Ardor. We probably should get going because this is on a timeline, right?
Yeah.
And I just slowly climb up onto Ardor and just kind of watch Cassandra and Rethera, like hoping someone else is going to take the lead.
And for one, Ardor would like extra help you. Like it's like there is like an extra, like if Ardor can be more clingy.
I think it makes Ultra feel more comforted because it's like being on Ardor's back is kind of like a safe space for her.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think Ultra doesn't know how to communicate right now. So she puts one of her hands on, after we get situated on the back, like I touch your shoulder blade and just kind of, without saying anything, just like leave it there longer than I normally would.
And Ardor, having listened to that, would probably like very quietly be like, I got you. You can meditate and close your eyes. You've got us from here.
I think when you say that, like, I still leave my hand there, but you can see like tears kind of starting to form. But before anybody could see it, Ultra closes her eyes and starts trying to meditate. Try to quelch that before anybody sees it or notices it.
Could I get a control from Ultra, please, and a resolve from Ardor?
Yeah.
In regards to tags, anything?
The connection between a dragon and Dragon Rider.
Okay. Can I use my clarity roll?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one that I have is my animal traits bestow rider, which I think is just all about connection.
That would definitely play a part.
Okay, so you said control, right?
Yes.
For me? Okay.
And resolve.
Resolve for Ardor.
We both didn't roll great.
A real bad roll. I rolled two ones.
We explode.
There is a, and this is automatic on your part, Ardor. And this is something you can essentially in the future play off, talk to the other dragons about. I don't think any of them have experienced this yet. I don't believe anything has been. There's nothing written down about this. But your desire to essentially protect and comfort Ultra leads to you, like unconsciously or subconsciously, finding that connection, the meld that was formed when you were hatched from the egg, and like the best way I can describe it is emotionally bridging that gap. The effect of which unfortunately doesn't really work this time, because neither of you are expecting it, and the automatic reaction is not to kind of like, the best way I can say it is meld minds. So there's, when you realize what's happening, you kind of instinctually pull away subconsciously, and the natural attempt, the subconscious attempt, is stopped and blocked. But I will say for both of you, you experienced that beginnings. It is possible, if one of you is in distress, or if one of you is in extreme mental state that is debilitating, you can actually theoretically, there's a possibility of bridging that meld, bridging the gap, and essentially protecting or comforting or etc. To give you an example, if there was an attempt to use like illusions or mind control or anything along those lines, for example, if a mage tried to mess with Ultra's mind, you could reach out and envelop her mind and essentially shield it and protect it. Or if she is on the brink of, a breakdown, you can actually help affect her mind and bring her back by essentially sharing your positivity and your warmth with her, which is almost like a mental hug, basically.
Yeah.
But not quite there yet, although the attempt was subconsciously made.
Yeah, but I noticed that was happening. It just wasn't successful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think just the thought of that it was starting is enough to kind of keep Ultra from breaking down, and like kind of resettles her mind to start meditating and focusing on that.
And there was never any mention of it in any of the books that Cassandra read or Argent read, and there's never been any mention of it from any of the masters in your training. So either it's something that's uncommon, or it's something that is a secret for a reason.
So this is not something we learned. This isn't something that we've even really discussed.
This has never been mentioned.
Okay.
But we both feel it in the same way of like a connect, like an attempt at a connection of like melding into.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I feel like I definitely make a mental note of that.
Yeah.
And kind of go like, if I try to talk about it with Ardor, Ultra will not be able to hold it together. So it's kind of one of those things where I'm going to take the comfort while it's here, and then even as small as it might be, and then maybe when we're resting, we can, unless Ardor brings it up or something.
Ardor is literally like, I think, especially with noticing that connection attempt, or like, I'm very well aware that you are literally held together by strands of a thread, and is like, whatever I can do to protect and comfort is the only thing. So like, I'm like normally very bubbly, very like, is like going to be calm and like as smooth flying as possible to like let you meditate and stay safe and give you that moment.
I think when we have that little inkling of something happening, it makes Ultra feel really bad that she said, maybe this isn't like anything. Like maybe we just walk by an egg at the right time. And so that memory is kind of coming back. And then there's like a little bit of guilt that starts to like kind of get caught in her throat. And when I'm sitting there meditating, I'm thinking back to when Ardor was like a puppy, like when she was a little pup and just bounding around, and when I was meditating and just would not sit still. But that's her happy place right now, and that's what she's focusing on.
And I'd say, given the focus of that, I would say Ultra probably will realize, or has been realizing, that the biggest change from any of the dragons, at least, because they're pretty solid personalities in terms of like surety, and that's just the nature of being a giant thing that can crush basically anything it wants to. You don't really need to change your personality too much. There's not much room for doubt. There's a lot of kind of like, I'm big, I'm bad. I mean, look at Tourmaline. Tourmaline's just like, yep, I'm chill. It's like,
I love Tourmaline.
are you worried? It's like, I'm cool. But Ardor has gone through probably the most changes. Like the playfulness, and I don't know, this may be a little bit sad for Ultra, but the playfulness has dissipated, and Ardor has taken on a certain amount of seriousness. And honestly, I'd say Ardor is probably the most concerned for people and just like the state of the world. Weirdly, but I'm just thinking about that now. I'm like,
Ardor is a big dragon with big feelings.
yeah.
I think in some ways though, like Ultra might not realize that now, but it's kind of her fault for not really being a leader and being the leader for her dragon. So
Ultra is also a bit more in her feelings as well. She's more in touch with her feelings as well, compared to, like Perry is very dodgy, Cassandra is very deny, Rithera is kind of, sorry Cassandra, Rithera is very kind of like staunch and stalwart, and that comes across in their dragons as well. Incinzia is very solitary and only concerned, well, mainly concerned with them, like individually. Tourmaline is very chill, which almost offsets Perry's like, kind of like nervousness and everything. Possibly Tourmaline has had to be a bit more of an adult. And kind of, like looking after Perry, that's made Tourmaline mature from where she started even. And obviously Argent is rational and kind of engages with Cassandra on a logical basis, whereby there's less need to concern with the feelings and concern with those type of things, which has possibly isolated him from the effect of like human emotions, like worrying about people, because they're always like, oh, what about the practicalities of XYZ? Which, this is all just coming to me now, like off the top of my head. I'm like, holy crap, the dragons have kind of been influenced by their riders as well, like how they've come about.
Parent child psychology and how that like changes. Yeah.
So it's something you will have noticed is that Ardor, I wouldn't necessarily has lost that playfulness and that enthusiasm, but the positivity has shrunk a little bit and the seriousness has grown a little bit, given the situation. Understandable, but we were talking about basilisks. So my question will be is, essentially, it's not like the basilisk is something that is wholly threatening to you as dragon riders. I can provide Cassandra with a basic tactic to drive it away. If you want to kill it, then that's going to take a different route. I guess.
I feel like we're prioritizing, and we don't have. We need to start prioritizing.
Yeah.
I think saving Peak is all that Rithera is like kind of in the point of the mind, and I think that's all that I've stressed. So
Okay. Well,
I don't even know if she's stressed killing it. It's more just making sure Peak's okay.
I can give you the additional information because you saw it on the way there, and you can see it on the way back towards the steel spine as well. It is currently going through a valley, and there are no habitations in the area. It's come from further to the east, further towards the vertical part of the steel spine, and there's like, I think there's like one kind of village, inverted commas, it's not even a village, in that area that it's gone past, and the next one is like at its pace, it'll take it like a day and a half to get there.
Okay.
Presuming it waddles straight there. So you're not under extreme time constraint to deal with it. If you would prefer to skip that and go straight to peak, or if Rithera would like to do that, like, you know, how would you like to deal with the Basilisk and the surrounding issues?
I think Rithera would just stress of like, Cassandra, how long does it take to kill a basilisk? Is it a hard thing to do?
I mean, it is difficult to do. Have you seen it?
Do we kill it or divert it?
Would you like the kind of tactical information on the Basilisk? All right.
Yeah.
So basilisks are pretty resistant to fire, which is
Okay.
why the Dragon Riders, in dealing with it, tend to just herd it away. Pretty much, once it's on a path, it just kind of keeps on trundling, almost like a tank. It just keeps going. Which is why the Dragon Riders would come in and basically bombard it with flame until it redirected its path to go in a different direction, away from civilizations. And, you know, with the number of Dragon Riders you used to have, patrols could always spot them and keep them at bay. Probably why this one has wandered in more recently is because it hasn't been redirected because of, you know, there aren't any patrols, there aren't Dragon Riders going around dealing with this stuff. If you want to kill it, the main thing you have to avoid is its eyes. The easiest way to do that for a group of Dragon Riders is for one to get in front and to threaten it with flames from the front, and then for another Dragon Rider to come in and flip it on its back and attack the underbelly. Because it's not as armored on its underneath as it is on top. Like, its scales are very plated and very strong. And actually, in times, Dragon Riders would hunt and kill large basilisks to use to armor their dragons for extra protection.
That'd be really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, with the point of normally we would herd it, but it's not something we can deal with constantly. So I feel like Cassandra is definitely leaning towards, so we don't have to deal with this again.
Yeah.
Which then is more
Priorities.
practical. Like, we don't have to deal with it then. It's done. And also we can use all the stuff from it because that's pretty helpful. Also.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not doing the butchering.
That's fine.
I guess in that case, Cassandra, as you're flying over towards the steel spine, Cassandra would float the idea of exterminating it for the sake of the future. And also practicality for, you know...
All respect.
All respect. Kill that thing.
It's not going to be super fast, but we can do this. It's how it's been done before. What do you think?
I'm good with extermination. Ulcha. Well, do we want to disturb Ulcha? Do we?
I feel like we've definitely floated together. Like,
Ulcha's still meditating.
Yeah, she'd be meditating, but if you wanted to ask her, like, you could wake her up or wake her up. Like, shake her out.
Jolt her out of it.
Yeah, I feel
like we should just...
I don't know that two of us can. And perhaps...
No, I think all three of us can, but if we just take the decision in the conversation...
Of course, yes. She'll be okay. Perhaps this is...
I don't know. She said she was tired. And I haven't seen her meditate in a very long time.
She needs to find her way of dealing with this situation, I suppose. And if that is meditation, then good. if it's not, then we can help her with it.
We are close enough we're close enough, just so you know. I imagine that we've like all kind of come together that we're close enough, but we're talking.
Yeah, that's what I
So
thought.
if you want to, this is our invitation, but you don't have to.
What I would say is you don't absorb the words, but it kind of penetrates the first layer of you're aware of like murmuring and there's a conversation going on, so you can kind of like lift yourself out of that kind of like inner solitude that you've kind of like put yourself in, where you're focusing on your thoughts, you're focusing on your feelings, you're focusing on yourself. You can essentially be like, you got this little bit of like a
Okay, so I'm not actually hearing the words then.
Yeah.
Okay, well then if I can't hear the words, then I probably will not respond if I can't like understand what's being said.
That's fine.
So exterminating this creature takes tact and strategy.
It'll also be a bit more difficult because there are only two approaches you can really take, given the valley and the mountains, which essentially means like the front and the back. If you approach from the front, you can keep its attention, but you will have issues with the gaze and the attempt to essentially, like paralyze or stun. But it does also mean that as long as you can maintain that attention, someone can come from behind and flip it over to strike. It should be a fairly quick like maneuver. You just need someone to essentially, tank it.
Well, my thought, as Cassandra, is to like utilize Incinzia to make a fake thing in front of it in the mist.
Oh, okay.
But then it focuses on
and
that.
that's exactly that's what Rathera is thinking, is if we do flame, and then if we use the mountain itself and knock it down with boulders to shift it and change it onto its back.
It would be difficult using because essentially the top side of it is so armored that hitting it with boulders would essentially like just kind of crack off it. However, what the tactic Cassandra's going up with is actually a pretty neat little idea. If you want to expand on that, Cassandra.
Yep. I mean, she's not very tactical, but can we use Incinzia as create a distraction? Obviously, Argent can help with that. And then all three of us can.
Absolutely.
You.
Oh, that was, I very much agree.
So, one of the benefits of using Incinzia is, again, it is a confined area with like encroaching cliffs and stuff. If you try and slow it down or try and like, if the other two dragons basically bombard it with flame and kind of like distract it, Incinzia can pretty much like blanket the whole area in mist and start up a kind of illusion of a big creature or like whatever you want really to distract the basilisk, and then whichever dragon or multiple dragons could approach from behind and essentially shoot in there quickly, flip it on its back, and kind of take it out with a quick strike.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, I think we'll sort of fly a bit closer to the Ultra and Ardor and Ultra.
Poker with a stick.
Like, obviously, it's going to be obvious to Ardor that we are wanting her to be with us in this.
Ardor will do just a little, like, maybe a little bit of moving, or like, however, I'm sure that we have how to pull you out of meditation already figured out. Maybe it's like a head kind of coming around and like resting on your shoulder, but it is like very gentle, very kind of like, okay, it's time to come back to the surface now.
So I think if you put your head on Ultra's shoulder, it'll be like one of those like, it's time. And like just a hand instinctively comes up and like strokes your cheek, and her eyes like open slowly, and it's like life kind of comes back into her.
Yeah.
And she sits up a little straighter and looks over and sees Cassandra. Oh, is it time?
It's
Yes.
time.
Are you okay?
Yes. What are we doing?
You can quickly explain the plan.
Yeah, so the efficiency.
And it just a very curt nod, like, I'm ready to do what we need to do.
Okay. So, I'm guessing no real hesitation here. Like, you've got a plan, you can just execute it. So, I'll... the Basilisk itself is got a little bit of space on either side. Like, it could turn around with a bit of, like, maneuvering. It's wandering down this mountain path, you know, through a valley. And what you essentially get is Ardor, Ultra, Cassandra, and Argent, kind of like floating above and approaching from the front to a certain degree to kind of like pelt it a little bit with flame. Given that the fire doesn't do anything, I won't ask you to roll a to give you an idea. Even Ardor's kind of like flame lightning bolt thing, the flame spear, wouldn't penetrate the top of the Basilisk, which can give you an idea of how effective it is against flame. So I won't ask you to roll that. What I will ask is for Incinzia and Rithera to give me a power and a control roll, respectively.
And this would count as hunting.
This would count as hunting.
Potentially either Incendia insight or reactive control.
I would say reactive control. Yeah. Oh, well, I'd say I'd say that. So you're going to be rolling a 4 success gate. Incendia, do you have any tags to?
No, but I don't need no tags.
That's true.
I didn't need any tags either.
Wow. 3 9s, geez, that's a lot better than the 113 you got before.
And I do feel like, obviously, Argent and Cassandra would be bolstering.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's good. So roll your control for Cassandra, and I will roll the power for Argent. I don't believe any of these really apply. Oh, enhancement applies. Okay.
Enhancement, yeah.
So that's
Dragon tactic.
yeah. Okay, so Argent got 3, and you got 3. So I would say, what aspect of this do you want to enhance? You can multiply it. You can adjust an aspect of it. You're essentially reaching out as the power is disseminated, and you are adding something to it, expanding it. You can even retract it or focus it if you want.
I feel like we wanted to focus it into one very like realistic creature, so
Okay.
perhaps like the ogre that we
The giant.
the giant. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously that was like it's going to be a pretty good fight for the Basilisk to go against
Okay.
in its mind, I suppose.
So
So trying to just make it as realistic and threatening as it can be.
what essentially happens is the mist that spreads covers the valley and covers the Basilisk, and it kind of like stops and hesitates for a second as this like thick mist kind of spreads around it, and also obviously it's been hissing a lot at you because of the like little pelts of fire that's been dropped down on it. And when Cassandra and Argent take a break from the flame, they focus their power and the mist starts to thicken in the area in front of it. It kind of starts to swirl a little bit. And this is not something any of you can see aside from kind of Rethera and Cinzia because they are affecting it. But to the Basilisk's eyes, a large, kind of bulky, even more scary and larger than the one that you faced, giant starts to form and starts to there's like echoing kind of and like thuds and vibrate. It can feel the vibrations of it stepping towards it, and it stops and kind of hunches up in a more protective stance and starts to, like, you can see even through the mist, you can see kind of reflections of these flashes, which is the Basilisk's attempt to stun a creature that isn't there. If any of you want to take this opportunity to dash in and go on the attack, now is probably a good moment.
Yeah.
I feel like Ardor would be ready, knowing the everything about Ardor, and just like ready to go, and just waiting for Ulcha.
Incensia is definitely.
Okay, are we having
Yeah.
All
Do
right.
we both want to go on the same side so it's
Yeah,
easier to topple it and push it?
We are working together.
Okay. All right. In
need to get
that
more.
case, could I get a? Let's have a little look here. Okay. Could I get a marshal from the dragons going in, along with their riders? In this instance, I think Resolve will be the one to go for.
As in Cinzia, I also have Fast and Powerful.
Fast and Powerful will both be a tag you can use. So that will be a 4.
That's lucky then, because I got
As
5 total.
as Rethera, I have hunting and then reactive control again.
So that will be a 4 as well for success gate for you.
And that was resolve, right?
Resolve.
No, resolve. Okay. Oh, so 3 successes.
3 successes.
And then as Ardor, I have sturdy. I do have can't be outnumbered as well. I don't know if that counts.
Not in this instance.
Okay.
There's only one of them.
Okay. Okay, so I have sturdy.
Sturdy will help. Okay, that's
And
3,
that's
4.
4 successes for Ardor.
And Ultra, if you give me your resolve.
Does Dragon Rider
Yep.
help on this one? Okay.
Be a 5 success gate, yeah.
Okay. You said resolve?
Yes.
It's 4? Go. Mm-hmm. 7?
Let me just see how.
Was it low enough that 3s count as a...
It was not
Okay,
quite
it
there.
didn't roll well in
didn't roll.
either, so
So,
Yeah.
I'll start off, and then seeing how the rolls went, I'll let you finish off. So feel free to basically take this narratively. We don't need 3 rounds of combat for this one. Starting off, the flame stops as the Basilisk stops, and you can see these like flashes of bright light, almost like a camera flash, attempting to stun this giant. And immediately, both Ardor and Incinzia break off, and both kind of dive down, kind of to like almost like a pincer movement. However, Incinzia is extremely fast, and therefore she gets there first. And the objective is essentially to roll it and to take it out in a flash. So, Incinzia, Rethera as well, if you'd like to add to this, please describe to me how you take out this Basilisk.
oh.
Hmm?
How does the Incensia like to hunt?
We usually go quite sneaky and shoot straight in from like above. So my thought was that we shoot in, almost land our back legs on the floor, and shoot straight up underneath its side.
With your shape as well, you'll be able to get under the armor plating and like flip it with your nose, essentially.
That's what I was like. Get right underneath it and straight like.
So you kind of flip it like a tortoise or an armadillo, and it just kind of like flips onto its back, and then it's like in there, like.
It's yeah, easy,
Yeah.
but.
Where you go? You
about that.
You go neck, like stomach.
I feel like I'd go for the neck. Like
I
it
feel
needs
like
to be
we'd
done
pick the
fast.
fastest. Yeah.
Okay, so within a second, there's a snap, and the basilisk's neck is essentially broken from a quick kind of like grab and then shake, and Incensia, you can feel the life go out of the basilisk. The threat is over, and therefore you can like slowly dissipate the mist. If you'll allow me a little bit of a flourish, I feel like as the mist clears and the other two riders and dragons are kind of like coming in, Incensia kind of like swivels a little bit with the neck of the basilisk still in her mouth and kind of growls a little bit like this is mine, I got this, kind of.
I'm like crouched on it as well. Like...
yeah, like the wings and the wing claws are like there. But yes, you have effectively taken out the basilisk. Again, one of the benefits of both dragon and rider is the power and strength of the dragon.
It was very smooth.
It was very smooth.
That was nice. That was a nice little hunt.
Okay.
I would give probably a little pat of like appreciation and like good job, but I taught her how to hunt.
That's true. If you wanted, you could essentially. It depends on you guys as riders. Like, there's enough basilisk here for a quick snack for the dragons. But I realize time is of an issue, so if you want to move on, I would say probably only Ardor would have the ability to carry this with you if you want to carry it with you.
I think Ardor would honestly probably do whatever, but if knew that like we wanted to head back to camp carrying this,
I think we Scoot. Food has been so scarce.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point it would be foolish to not let the dragons eat. So I would just be snack break and look around at Rithera and Cassandra and kind of have my eyes wide, like we probably should let them eat this because a hungry dragon is not going to be as strong as a full dragon.
I agree, but can we get the scales off it first?
Can we let them eat it back at camp? How far are we from camp?
I was thinking, yeah, if we take it back,
Couple of hours.
then we can. Hour.
And Cynthia, are you going to eat anybody between here and camp in a couple hours?
Out.
Hours? Can I can eat the head. Just eat it. Shut up.
Brains.
It doesn't look like there's armor on the head.
Like the entire underneath is pretty scoopable for dragons. They can basically, it's like a bowl of food, basically. So if you wanted, the dragons could, I'd imagine it would take like five minutes or so, just kind of like eat the basilisk fleshy part, and you'd be left with kind
Would
of
we
like.
still get the shell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean then
And
I'm
snack
just
break.
like, okay, go ahead. Like,
Okay.
that's how it works.
Snack break sounds good to me.
Din dins.
Nom 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 nom.
I would say the only exception to the quick, like, you know what a dog's like when you put his bowl down, it's like is Argent, who's a bit more delicate and a bit more, you know,
Should we save some for tourmaline?
If you want to get it.
I imagine if any of you try and get like a piece for later, there's audible growls from at least one of the dragons.
Can you all be kind and save some for tourmaline, please?
Tourmaline's problem.
We should be nice. I know how hungry I am. Tourmaline doesn't complain, but I imagine Tourmaline's really hungry.
Tourmaline can hunt in the woods.
Cynthia, just a little bit.
Mm,
Oh,
I don't
you
think
did a great job
physically
killing it.
in Cynthia can eat this much. But it's not the point.
I mean, Incensia and Ardor can eat quite a lot. I'd say like the ones who eat the most though are in Ardor and Tourmaline. They are the biggest.
Yeah, I feel like I will ignore one leg.
Okay.
I guess
I'll
if
ignore a little bit too.
yeah, I guess since Ardor seems like the one who could help carry it the best, like, can I just like I'll hop off and just start like
Strap
grabbing
it.
body parts and like strapping them to Ardor's back.
Rip a leg off and just strap it to Ardor's side, like rope it
Just like
around.
like wrapping some rope around it.
It just looks one of those like giant prehistoric chicken drumsticks, you know, just like. Okay.
Yep.
So my question as both GM and showrunner is, do you want to go for another 5 minutes to hit my ending, or would you like to stop here? Depends on if you have the time.
I'm okay for it.
I'm good for 5 more minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to take you over that without asking first, so. In that case, we will move forward in time a little bit to the dragons having eaten and the riders having stashed the bits and pieces of shell or essentially scale armor, which is, I'm assuming, what that's going to end up being, onto the dragons for transport, along with some leftovers, a leg or two. As a sidebar, the Basilisk has around, I think it's 8 or 10 legs. So it has a bit of like a armored centipede vibe to it when it's moving. And we will go to Peak, where I believe was the next stop on the way home, yes? Well, on the way back to the swamp. So, landing at Peak and approaching it as well, you can see that there doesn't seem to be much sign of movement. There doesn't seem to be any sign of movement in Peak. And I'm assuming you want to land down there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so landing down there, the first thing you're presented with are a couple of stone statues. People who have essentially been confronted with the basilisk unfrozen. It's not quite the same makeup as the mountain. It's not rocky like that. It's a bit more kind of soft rock, limes. You know that. If you reach out and touch it, it's almost like it's made of charcoal or something. It's a lot more kind of crumbleable, and there's no reversal. There's no way to reverse it. It's very much like being poisoned, you know, like dying by poison or dying by anything else. It's a death. You recognize a couple of the villagers of Peak. They seem to, like, one of them is in a position of like trying to strike. They still have in their hand like a metal kind of like curved sword. There's another one who is essentially kind of like on their hands and knees. It looks like they like fell and were turning, you know, to things like that. However, there's not that many. 3 or 4 scattered around. It looks like as the Basilisk came through, they didn't have much warning, but they had enough to get away. And in fact, there's only a group of statues at the far end of the entrance to Peak, kind of the valley that comes inside, that seem to have actually been, you know, like the delaying action, I guess you could call it. So they held off the Basilisk as best they could, while everyone else ran in the other direction, and most of them got away. When you go over to look, as I assume you do, you see the essentially the headman of the village,
Our village leader.
the village leader, a few of the more renowned elder warriors. So, you know, when you knew them, they had kind of like grey in their beard, grey in their hair. They had been they had taken in their wards, and their wards now looked after them.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, because they were there at the position of you know, when you became a dragon rider, Crix was elevated to position of like, you know, mentor to dragon rider, which means everyone looks after her and makes sure that she's good, because she doesn't have her so she would have been in the middle of the town hall, of the essentially the village center when this came, and she joined the delaying action as well. So you do see a frozen Crix in kind of like essentially what looks like a shield wall, with a look of like kind of desperate resolve, I would say, on her face. But fortunately, she too is frozen in a charcoal statue-like state.
You'd see Rathera kind of square her shoulders, and be very like stoic, can't really read emotion of this was what I was trying to stop by making sure that we got the Basilisk before it got here, but it looks like it didn't go the path that we were expecting.
It came from the north, so this probably happened a few days ago. Maybe longer.
And just, you really just see Rathera standing there and very quietly just taking very slow, deep breaths, as almost a like, I want to look at this and remember this and know that they went with honor of defense of our people and care. If I touch them, will they crumble?
If you are not careful, then yes. If you're careful and you're kind of, you know, soft with them, then you can essentially pick them up, move them, but, you know, you don't want to do too much of that, I would say.
Because I would like to, we had a burial ritual, and I'd love to, Rathera, if we had time, would love to take the time, and would probably turn around to, or like walk back a little bit. Do we have A couple hours. Or can I follow behind?
Of course we can help you with it if you want us to.
I am okay to do it on my own.
Do you want to do it on your own?
Yes. Yes.
I glance
Oh.
over at the one that Ithera was standing next to. Like, I've never met Crix, right? So that's...
You probably would have heard a few stories, though.
And she would have this same hairstyle.
Yeah.
So a lot of like identification of caretaker, they'd pair up some type of visual representation, whether it was a article of clothing, hairstyle, or jewelry piece.
I mean, I'd hop off our door and I can see like the pain that Ithera is in.
And trying to hide you can probably see her eyes are super glassy, but she is like staring up at the light, looking at the sun, doing everything that she can to not be anything but strength.
I would imagine you'd see the clenching, unclenching of the jaw as well.
Would I know if Ithera meant that she wanted to do it alone or that she's just saying that so that she can,
I think that with all of the stories that she's talked about, everything that they do when it comes to starting and finishing their journey happens alone. So they dig out their caves alone. We come into this earth as an individual person, and we might pass with others, but we do end up passing alone. So a lot about the ritual is being alone and solitary.
I think I would know that you meant it then and not try to be like, oh, I'll stay kind of thing. So I would walk over to you and put my hand on your arm and squeeze it. Really sorry.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go to the pack on our door and kind of unload extra food and just kind of make like a little pile of supplies for Ithera so that, because I look around and I'm like, this is going to take time and effort.
Yeah.
So just try to create like a little area that when you need a break, you can regenerate a little bit.
Okay. And with the rest of you headed back a little bit earlier than Ithera and Incensia, are you staying with Ithera, I assume?
Yeah, I feel like as she got closer to the people before, I was kind of following behind her, trying to be there. But not really knowing, there's not anything I can do.
Yeah.
And I think I'll just sort of be nearby.
Help out when needed, but not really be an intrusive force.
Yeah, it's like I'm there if she wants.
Yeah. In that case, we'll move forward a little bit in time, a little montage of preparations. To the next day, in the evening as the sun is setting, you are on an outcropping with whatever preparations you have prepared for the funeral rites of the Baran. Looking out as the sun is setting on the horizon, just slowly dipping over the horizon. A little bit of pink left in the sky, but the darkness is closing in. What are the rites of the Baran when it comes to funeral services?
It's a lot of the person who's saying goodbye has that time, and it's when the sun is setting, letting the sun set and being with the body or remains or idea or items if there was no body found.
Yeah.
And being there as the sun sets and that being the passage and the door closing on the life.
Okay.
And having carved like a pebble, like taking something out of the house and the home that was built and that was theirs. Having taken part of that gets then with them as well.
Okay. If you'll allow me a little flourish with that. Both Incinzia and Rethera are there standing on the outcropping, kind of like looking out over the drop of the mountains, kind of quite high on the peaks, quite high on peak. And the belongings of Crix, along with the kind of remains of Crix and a little bit of kind of tinder or kindling as well, is on this outcropping with the original stone formed from the cave that was carved. And after the sun starts to go down, Incinzia essentially puffs a small amount of blue flame, which catches at the edge and sets alight the little bed of kindling and essentially nest around, and starts to burn as the flames start to grow higher and the smoke starts to drift out across the mountainside and starts to spread Crix around. The camera pulls back, and kind of like as the smoke spreads, the camera pulls back to show it kind of spreading all across the mountainside, and we fade as we look across that scene. So, little moment for Crix, and we'll end the session there. Okay. Sorry we went a bit over today, guys.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting to cry today. Thank you, Shibi.
Let's just make everyone sad right at the end. It's fine.
I know. Oh.
Happy Friday.
Unfortunately, the chaos of what's happening means that, you know, as you guys said, your attention is split in so many different directions that it's hard to like keep up with everything, and it's very much a case of like, where do we go? What do we do? Every time we go and do one thing, something else is left vulnerable. And you know, like, it's.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If we would have not gone to the forest first, no, you said it was a few days. Like it had been a few
Well,
days.
Do you remember if I asked Rethera if she was going
She wanted to go to peak.
go to peak?
So the guilt is like
Yeah.
the guilt is killing her.
Oh no.
She decided that she didn't want to draw attention to peak by visiting and having a dragon rider there, which is very valid a point.
Yeah.
But
So she knows. And that's what I think, like, seeing that, walking up to it, and that's why she didn't want anyone else there, because it was like, A, I didn't want to draw attention to them, and then B,
and
I know that this is my fault.
If you remember last episode, I had Perry and Tourmaline roll on their way to Lowhold. If they'd have succeeded that, they'd have seen the Basilisk going down the mountainside towards Peak.
Oh,
I know, it's just how things played out, unfortunately.
yeah, absolutely. Ooh.
This is the danger when you sandbox GM. You don't have control over things that happened.
No.
I'd have loved for Rethera to have been able to swoop in and save
But I think that this also is like, personally, when telling a story, it's the idea of like, we all know the consequences of what we're doing, and we all
Yeah.
know the consequences of what's happening. And like, we lost our masters, but we haven't lost our roots family yet, other than Ulchuk, who I'm sure has a lot of feelings of what's going on. And then so it's that, yeah,
And
it's that realization of it happening.
I think also this is going to be interesting for Rithera because you now have some of the riders are much more focused on people in the sense of protecting them from other people, like protecting for Perry, it's protecting Lowhold from influence and being subjugated. For Cassandra, she's worried about Cargilia like becoming an evil dictatorship over the area. I feel like for Rithera, she can probably start to sympathize a lot more with Aradan. The idea of isolating and just dealing with monsters like as part of your job is probably a bit more appealing, just given and then
We'll see.
you have some of the resurgence of primals, which is concerning or worrying, or
A lot. It's just all.
it is a tumultuous time, unfortunately.
Well, thank you for a beautiful story today, Sheepy.
And apologies for the way things played out. In the kind of
Telling a story.
Yeah.
We're making a world.
So, in true sheepdog and wandering in fashion, with the outros, we'll start with the person I made cry. So we'll start with Elbel, Rithera, Ardor, please. Give us an outro and hot potato
Right.
it.
My name is Ellie Elbel. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I am a variety streamer. We play a lot of retro and indie games. I am currently playing Knights of the Old Republic and
Okay.
Zelda 2. And I'm gonna go eat some ice cream now.
It's on me.
And that's about it. I stream 4 days a week on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Yes.
Hi.
Send it over to Tash.
Okay.
I'm Tashna. Hello. I've been playing Cassandra and Cinzia today. Both angry, but some people enjoyed it a little bit more than others. But now she's not enjoying it so much because her writers. So, that people crying gets me. So I couldn't even look at Ellie for a minute.
I'm sorry.
Nope. You have to look over here.
I forced myself to. I was like, you did this. You suffer with her.
Oh yeah. No, and emotions get me. I'm someone that can show them very easily. So sorry.
No, it's good.
It's
It's
all good.
good. And as I play Final Fantasy 14, I've not been streaming as much because everything's difficult and I'm doing my best. And I'm gonna hot potato to Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Peters Plays. Today's episode was a trip and a half, but I feel like it was a good one. So thank you for all playing with me.
I loved that Ultra speech where she
I
berated.
loved-
It was such a good speech.
Well, just like finding her footing, but also like, her anger came out a little bit today.
Great.
I feel like that surprised her, and that's why she had such an emotional washout afterwards, where she was just like, I just let a lot out, and I'm feeling a little drained and sad, and let's just,
Yeah. It's like that conflict of like, is this the person I want to be? Is this the new landscape? And yeah, I don't know. Everybody had some really beautiful moments today. And so I'm so sad for Rithera. Oh, I couldn't look at Ellie either. I was like, I'm going to start crying.
As soon
But-
as I
Sorry.
saw her eyes tear up, I'm
No,
like,
don't
oh, no.
apologize. Yeah. I'm Katie Peters Plays. You can catch me on Twitch at Katie Peters Plays. I'm going to be playing games a little bit later today if you want to say hi. I have 2 podcasts if you want to listen to me talk in your ear. I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say. Today was just a really good episode, and come say hi to me and say hi to all these other people too. Just do it. You won't regret it. So I'm gonna throw it to Sheepy.
Hello, I'm Sheepdog. Given that we've gone over a little bit, I won't do my outro. What I will say is Domestic Dan is usually here. He is just as awesome as all these other people. Go give him a look, go give him a follow, and yeah, engage in everyone else's streams and gaming and everything when you get a chance. We're gonna head off. We're gonna outro feel yourself uplifted by cheery tune and outro, because it's a really nice song at the end of this. Yeah, apologies to Ellie.
No, don't apologize. It's okay. We're telling a beautiful story.
And on Monday we have the QT. It's going to get interesting. I haven't made anyone cry over there yet, so I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. Apparently I just can't help myself. And yeah, we'll see you next Friday, where we will have everyone. And I have a feeling that from here, in whatever direction you guys choose to go, things are going to ramp up, because we have hit the halfway mark. So see where we go. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you for watching, everyone, and we will see you next week.
He hasn't told us we're out yet.